This Little League World Series, and you kind of demonstrated this, sir, Lubie, when we were talking about the Hawaii Vanderbilt game, a game that you would not have given a flying fuck about at any other time and for any other reason, but that you were encouraged by the professor to put $25 on the money line at 6-1. But you were all in on this thing, and you remembered chapter and verse exactly what happened and transpired in the last 17 minutes of the game, described it in great detail, as if you were doing an ESPN highlight show. And that was over $25. So I happen to be in a bar, and I'm watching this Little League World Series. You know how they put that little thing up, and it's, it's always kind of stupid, I think, because you're asking an 11-year-old, what your favorite movie is. What do you expect them to say? Citizen Kane?
Yeah, I hate when they do that.
They put up about this little kid, came up, I think, with like the bases loaded, hit a little tapper to the pitcher to end the inning. They put up that his favorite food was a chicken sandwich. All right, so all of a sudden, when this grounder, this little tapper goes out to the mound, I hear this guy yell, "You know what, kid? Take a chicken sandwich and shove it up your ass." And then the guy was grousing, that he had money on the game. And I thought, well, I mean, that proves the point. You put a few bucks on a ball game, it could definitely change the dynamic of your character. Shove a chicken sandwich up your ass, you told this little kid.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Great to be with you on this Tuesday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and Mr. Morocco, Mr. Michael Lubitz. Always a pleasure to have Lubie here. And wow, Lubie, I'm happy that you took this into consideration, because I was thinking you would be the hardest guy to move off of this mark. But we discussed this briefly yesterday. We've been coming in a little bit late. You got the dog, you got other things. And then I'm looking at my alarm clock every morning and thinking, why is this set for 5:30? This is the age of streaming. We're just clinging to an old concept here about morning drive radio that is no longer relevant. People don't even go to work anymore. People, are out of work. No, I mean, people, unfortunately, you have some in that situation. But most people, I would say, is it most people? What would you say the percentages of people that are working from home as comparison to what it was, let's say, 5 years ago?
Oh, I mean, I think it's 50-50 now, whereas before maybe it was like 90-10.
Yeah.
80-20. I mean, it's like 50-50. Most people I know work from home and some variety. I mean, like what we do.
Yes, and it's great. It couldn't be any better. I mean, that was one of the few, if you can take positives away from the COVID-19 period of time, that was one thing, this transformation where there wasn't so much pressure on you to get up in the morning, go flying out of the house, get immersed into just hideous traffic, get all nerved out about driving to work, and by the time you get there, you're a schwitzing, psychotic mess. And then right away, the boss starts screaming at you about something you didn't finish up correctly yesterday, and you just have a miserable day. Here you have a cup of coffee, you pet the dog, maybe even take it for a walk like you were doing, and you say, wow, life is good. You feel as emancipated. I don't know. I mean, maybe this isn't a fair comparison, but I have nothing but empathy for these people that were released, these Iranian hostages that were released. They weren't qualified as hostages. Iranian government had thrown them in prison with unfounded charges. The one guy was, 8 years locked in some hideous situation. And you can't help but think, my God, could you have survived that? I mean, holy John McCain, very, very rough to do. And not have it have an overwhelming impact on the rest of your life, even if you do someday attain freedom. And yet people are screaming about it, saying, well, it seems like this happens every time, right? Where whatever the price was to pay. I mean, in the Brittany Griner thing, we made kind of a joke of it, but the truth is, I mean, you really want to see Brittany Griner rot away in a Russian prison because she had some vape pipe in her carry-on luggage, which who knows? I mean, the relative seriousness of that in relation to other crimes that are committed in Russia, you would have to think is pretty light, right? Mm. But nonetheless, I mean, and the trade, I mean, we equated it with among the worst trades in basketball history. Joe Barry Carroll for Kevin McHale, I mean, that was just pure and unadulterated ugliness. When you considered that Victor Boot was this heinous, murderous, weapons guy that was selling weapons to people who had a direct intent. I mean, they just a stated intent. You know what? We want to use these to kill Americans. Hey, Vic, how you doing? So to trade for a WNBA basketball player, I mean, on the surface, on paper, obviously the trade seems to be rather lopsided. But do you not have empathy for these people? They get off this plane, and you're thinking, my God, what did they do to these people? The Iranian government over the years. I don't know. How do you feel about that? They released like the $6 billion. Supposedly, the U.S. Has the ability to oversee how this money is being spent, and it's going to go towards hard to figure in Iran that they're going to take $6 billion that they just got back in this landmark kind of hostage exchange, if you will. And they also had some Iranian people that were detained in the U.S. Were released as well as part of that swap. That really wasn't mentioned too much. Everybody concentrated on the money. But how did you feel about that, Libby? I mean, when I see these guys getting off the plane there, and I'm thinking, you would like to know that the government, at virtually all costs, would extend every possible, venue and avenue that they had to secure your release. I don't know. I really felt tremendous empathy for the people that were released, and that kind of took the criticism that the U.S. government is receiving and Biden for orchestrating this. And I thought, okay, that there's going to be a price. I mean, and none of these things come without a big, hefty price.
Well, look, I understand the idea of we don't negotiate with terrorists. I get it because things like fucking Boot happened, and that was an utter disaster. She was an idiot. She should have been paying more attention, and it doesn't mean you let out a goddamn mass. I mean, in a sense, a mass murder indirectly. But and then if it was turned around on myself, I'd want them to do everything known to man.
Imagine, how hopeless would you feel at that stage? That's the thing. I mean, how do you sustain hope that you're eventually, it's like the theme in Papillon, right? I mean, do you have the will to go on? Is life and the will to go on living and pursue a happy life? Is it strong enough to keep you going through monumental, torturous situations that would break almost anybody and destroy you of whatever will you had to live, and so interesting story yesterday, but the reaction is kind of wild, and of course the right side's pointing fingers at Joe Biden, saying this is opening up the ugly can of worms, but it's not like it's unprecedented. It has been done by many presidents in the past in different situations and circumstances, and here we are today. And will it happen again? In all likelihood, yes, but this is the way of the world today, and it's very unfortunate. But you can't help but feel anything but a massive amount of relief for these poor people that were finally released. I mean, that has to be. Imagine you're just snatched off the streets in Morocco, Libby, and all of a sudden you're in some Moroccan prison, and you have no idea if anyone's ever going to hear your voice again, much less be interested in securing a release. And certainly the people that put you there in the first place don't give a flying one. So. It's ugliness, right? I mean, you talk about retaining your will to live. Those guys, just a tremendous spirit to be able to get through that. So felt just a tremendous relief that these people finally found freedom. And let's hope that that this minimizes the efforts of countries to do this again. Although it's going to happen somewhere. So I think it's happening in Russia right now, right? That guy that they just took off the streets, and you still have other people that have been detained there for years that were overlooked. That Whalen guy screaming. Well, I mean, how he maintains his patience is beyond comprehension. The guy that's in Russia that everybody's been talking about trying to navigate his release, and then the Brittany Griner thing became a more important criteria, which seemed kind of odd. Joe Barry Carroll was also part of that deal was the chief. Let's not forget about that. The chief. And the rights to Kevin McHale. Well, was that the worst, most lopsided basketball trade ever?
I mean,
not the one with the chief, but Brittany Griner for Victor Boot. What do you think?
Honestly.
Who made that deal? Mike Tannenbaum? What the hell? So there we go, making fun of a situation that's very serious. How
Yeah.
ludicrous is that? All right, I'm back and forth between three games last night. What about you, Libby? I don't know if you were involved in any sports television viewing. I kind of went all in, Jim Sarney, on this, and I'm trying to catch all of the games and make some observations. The Marlins came up losers. Jeff McNeil, a ninth inning home run, well pitched ball game. This guy Cabrera did his job. The relievers came in there. I'd been down on AJ Puck. Puck rhymes with. And that's the way we were feeling about him for a
Yeah.
little while, but he seems to have straightened himself out. He goes an inning and two-thirds, doesn't give up any runs. Robertson, of course, was on the ropes, but gets out of the inning that he worked without yielding a run. They get to the ninth inning, and Scott, who'd been very, very good and became the closer for the Marlins, comes on, gives up a home run to McNeil. The Marlins, who had scored, 36 runs over the weekend in 3 games, something like that. And they muster up just 1 run. Very debatable. Did you see this Soler potential home run that went
No,
out of the park?
no.
I think it was like the 7th or 8th inning. Soler comes up there. Louis Rise, who passed 200 hits. 2 other Marlins, I believe it's only 2. 2 other Marlins have had 200 hit seasons. Can you name them, Mike Lubie Lubitz? 2
What?
other Marlins in Marlins history, in their 30-year history, have gone for 200 or more hits. One of them did it on more than one occasion, did it twice. But those are the guys that did it. You would think maybe Luis
Juan
Castillo, because he had that,
Castillo.
what?
I would think Castillo. He had that was
Uh,
game hit streak.
I don't think Castillo did it. If he did it, he did it with a number that was below 204. It's possible that he might have done it. I might be wrong about this. Check that out if Luis Castillo ever had 200 hits. I'm going to say no to that. The 2 guys that were listed, but this was under Marlins records for hits in a season. So it's possible somebody else had 200 hits. 204 was accomplished by Juan Pierre, who also had a season where he had 220 something.
Oh
Juan
wow.
Pierre, he did it twice. And Hanley Ramirez was the only other Marlin that I saw with 200 plus hits in a season. Louis Rise hitting 355. I mean, just an amazing year by this guy. He upped his home run total with a surge in the power department of late, and now has 10 home runs. Not an enormous number, but would you not take a leadoff hitter that's going to hit 355 for you, come through in a clutch an enormous number of times when he comes up later in a ball game when not leading off and drives in a lot of runs, and just was consistently making contact? I would imagine his strikeout ratio is amazingly favorable, and gets 200 hits in a season while hitting 355. Pretty incredible year for Luis Ariz. So that was a great acquisition. I know it came at a price. Pablo Lopez, who was a very popular player, I don't know how he finished the season with the Twins, but he was off to a real good start in the first half. So, they traded value for value. And you have a guy that's about to do something that is unprecedented in Major League Baseball history. Playing for your local club here, the Miami Marlins, Luis Ariz will be the first player in baseball history ever in successive seasons to lead the American League in hitting one year and the National League the next, or even vice versa. Nobody's ever done it. DJ LeMahieu is the only that surprised the hell out of me. That LeMahieu is the only other guy that has won a batting title in both leagues. You would think at some point in time that there was high average hitter that was traded and ended up in, or even via free agency, ended up switching leagues and was able to win the batting title in both leagues. But Louis Ariz, though, will be the first guy ever to do it in consecutive seasons when the season comes to an end. At 355, won the batting title last year. Of course, Aaron Judge was in a battle for the batting title, but it did seem like towards the last couple of weeks of the season that he was pressing to hit that 60-second homer. And in the process, his batting average might have dipped a little bit, and Rise ended up being the batting champion with I think he hit might have been like 315 last year or something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood. It wasn't anything quite as sensational as this year's 355. But the Marlins lose, and it's a quagmire, Lubie. I mean, you talk about the proverbial, there's a logjam atop the leaderboard, and Big Jack's going to really have to hold on today in the wind here at Doral on the Blue Monster in round 4 if he's going to win this thing. Look at those names, Jim Nance, that are atop the leaderboard. But many teams involved in this third spot for the wild card and the wild card in general. I guess the Phillies have enough of a lead there that you're thinking they're probably going to be one of those wild card teams as they are up like 3 and a hook, I believe, on the rest of these teams. And you have Arizona is now a half game up. The Cubs and the Reds are in a dead heat, and the Marlins are a half game back. So, yeah, Marlins very much alive in the race. I did not anticipate this. Did you?
Oh no.
Even after the trade deadline, when Kim Hang made these moves, I didn't think they would work out as well. Jake Berger's been real good, although he had a couple of errors in the game last night. I'm not sure that first Met run came across as a result of the runner that was on base because of the Berger error, but he butchered a couple of balls at third base. He's been a reliable fielder, so can't really criticize him for that. You had Segura there, but he couldn't break the Mendoza line earlier in the season, and certainly didn't have the power that Berger provides. But Berger's been real good as a Marlin, as has Josh Bell. The only guy that they acquired at the deadline that's been a flop has been Robertson, who has not pitched well as a Marlin and is debating. One of the New York writers from the Post was talking to him. I guess he was holding court with the New York writers since he pitched for the Mets and also was a Yankee before that. But and they were asking him about his plans, and he said he wouldn't rule out the possibility of going back to the Mets. But you're thinking, after watching what he did with the Marlins, if you were the Mets, do you really need this guy when you're going to get Edwin Diaz coming back next year? How desperate would you be to sign David Robertson, who has pitched to a almost 7 earned run average? How is it only 7? He's given up like 15 runs in 16 innings or something like that. A lot of unearned runs. I mean, if you're a reliever, unfortunately, if you're in working 1 inning at a shot, you give up 2 runs. That equates out to an earned run average of 18, Lubie. That's tough to factor into the equation there. It's like factoring, that 1B that you got into that. Well, you were a good student.
Yes, I was.
But I would hope, that my 1B would raise my grade point average when I was at the Cuse enough above. What was the cutoff for getting thrown out of school? Like 1.2? I think you had to have a 2.0, no?
It's 2.0, yes. It was across the board, whether athlete or student, 2.0.
2.0, huh? They were very liberal with the athletes, let's put it that way. Like my life, I mean, my college transcript really much was a portrayal of what my future life was to be, just a series of incompletes, one after another. My mother asked me one time when thing was mailed home, what does INC stand for?
Incredible.
Incredible job. I mean, they don't have an adjective that has enough hyperbole in it to describe the job that I did in that particular course. Yeah. That's so nice, Jeffrey. I don't think my mother was as gullible as she let on. I think she really knew what the hell the score was, right? You degenerate gambling pig is what she was thinking. Stop spending your evenings at Vernon Downs.
Oh, my God.
Right? I'm sorry that we let you take the car up to the campus there, because that's all we did. We had this shuttle going to Vernon Downs. It was about 30 miles away. We didn't care what the weather was either. You could have needed a dog sled to get there, and we still, we just put the snowshoes on and boom, right there in the parking lot at Vernon, ready to bet whatever we had on Wheat Hauler in the first race. All right, so flipping back and forth, 3 games. So the Marlin game, unfortunately, didn't turn out well. It was kind of an interesting game all the way through. If you like, the tension of the situation and this sort of crisis mode that you're in, trying to make the wild card, I really think it would be a bitter disappointment for me after investing the amount of time I did in watching what Marlins baseball I viewed. And I would watch the game just to hear my man Tommy Hutton doing the color analysis on the ball game
tomorrow, by the way.
Tommy Hutton. Oh, great.
Well, the Braves series got me excited, and then they played the Mets. I'm like, oh, nice. That sets up really nice for them. Of course, they shot their fucking load over the weekend.
They went against this guy, Buto, who he's been pitching well. I mean, the Mets, for some reason, are getting some decent starting pitching. In fact, the guy tonight is no bargain. This guy, Lucky Lucchesi, that's going against him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's good.
That's not necessarily going to be pretty. I mean, Lucchesi are relatively, let's see, he's 3-0 in a season, 2.83 earned run average. The team is 4-3 in games that he's pitched, so there's a favorable thing there. Of late, though, the guy has been just absolutely nasty. 2-0 in his last 3 starts, 14 2/3 innings, and a 0.61 earned run average.
Oh, Jesus.
To a team that nearly got shut out last night. That Soler thing was odd. I mean, the ball was hit so high, Lubie, and it appears at first that they're going to give him a home run. They actually had him round the bases. He jogged around the bases very slowly. It seemed like he did it reluctantly because they weren't sure if the call was going to stand. The original ruling was that it was a home run. The ball had hit off one of the pillars at one of the columns in left field, not the foul pole, but when it finally landed, it went so high that it was hard to tell if it went over the foul pole or to the left of it. It either was like right over the pole or to the left of it, and it wasn't really hooking, and it hit one of the pillars well to the left of the foul pole when it finally made contact with something.
Oh, it's to the left of the
This ball was like launched to the moon. I mean, if it wasn't an indoor stadium, this would have been in the Miami River, this shot. It's unbelievable. You would have seen the guys in the kayaks there like you were watching a game in San Francisco. No doubt. I mean, it would have triggered, put a spotlight on, well, there's definitely a migration problem there. Look at all those guys in boats.
Oh, no.
But it was contained by the stadium, but made a dent in the pillar, I think. And the pillar was well to the left of the foul pole on a ball that really, it did not appear that it had like a lot of spin on it. It wasn't hooking like you usually see where, you got the Carlton Fisk there and he's waving and waving and waving and waving. But you could have easily thought it was a home run. The umps got together after that. As Soler had already rounded the bases. Now, this is going to put the Marlins up 3-1, which I don't know that you could fairly say that would have been, an outcome that was a winning formula for them, but certainly would have given them a big edge there. And the McNeil home run would have obviously been overcome by the fact that they had a 2-run lead. So, a huge, huge factor. I mean, it's a big call. The umps get together and they reverse the call after Soler had circled the bases, and they say, no, it was a foul ball. Showalter came out of the dugout there. He looks like a shot fighter. My God, you talk about somebody that just looked like he went 12 with De La Hoya. It had to be just a miserable season for Mr. Baseball there. Buck Showalter was supposed to have this marvelous Mets team, and they ended up being a disaster. So he comes shuffling out of the dugout right away, like with a what the fuck look on his face. And the umps get together, and they decide it was not a home run. Now you got Schumacher. He comes out of the dugout kind of indignantly, like, hey, well, what are you talking about here? You're going to call that foul? And they finally go to a video review in New York, and the people in New York felt that the ball was foul, which I thought that probably was the right call, Louis. So I don't know that you can be screaming that the Marlins got screwed in this ball game, but they only mustered up that one run. They take the home run off the board and the 2 runs off the board. Of course, Soler strikes out subsequent to that. And they just never got anything going with the bat last night. It was very unfortunate. So we'll see if they can break through against this Lucky Lucchesi tonight. Although he has been, as we say, not just nasty, but very stingy. 0.61 earned run average. Going against Braxton Garrett, who has pitched very well of late. This is a guy that looks like Tommy John reincarnated. I mean, Tommy John after the surgery. He throws a lot of slop, this guy. Nothing particularly hard. I don't think his fastball cracks much more than 90 miles an hour, which is nothing in Major League Baseball in terms of velocity these days. But been pitching very effectively. Has a nice sort of sweeping breaking ball, and uses it very, very wisely. And always seems to be on the ropes in different innings, at least a few times. If he pitches 6 innings, he's in trouble, it seems like, in 3 of them. And yet has been able to wriggle his way out of it. Very Levon Hernandez-esque, this left-hander. And so we'll see. It could be another tough one tonight, but obviously all of these games are critical for the Marlins, as they are. And you're doing some scoreboard watching? You're not as into it as...
I'm watching the Marlins. I've been paying
yeah.
attention to the Marlins. After this weekend, I was rejuvenated, and then I was like 2-1. Oh, my God. It's so weird.
It happens. It's baseball. I mean, that's the way it goes. The Braves right now in a bit of a tailspin, too. I mean, the Braves have been sensational, and all of a sudden they're getting clobbered.
Well, they clinched everything, right? Didn't they clinch 1 overall? I think they've clinched 1 overall. So, what is there to fucking play for?
You still want to stay sharp, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. But I'm thinking,
remember when the Colts deliberately sat down that one year so that they could play the Jets, and then they lost to the Jets in the playoffs? Yeah. I love that when that happens. The arrogant team, the Nick Saban approach. Yeah, well, we don't have to worry about these guys, and then boom, or we want to line up some inferior opponent, and then you lose to them. That's always very invigorating circumstance in sports. especially when it's a team you don't like to begin with. All right, so there are 2 football games on last night. I don't know, did you have any interest in those?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, all right. So, Saints, real boring game against the Panthers. How much of a harness do they have on Bryce Young? And if you need to have that kind of, I mean, under wraps approach to a quarterback, do you really, I mean, can you really say that it was worth trading up to get the number 1 overall pick? I mean, of the guys that have been playing, I haven't seen Anthony Richardson yet as a pro. He suffered a concussion, and he's been, I guess, okay. You're worried that he will never make it because of his inaccuracy throwing the football, which, as we saw with Josh Allen in week number 1, that's not a good condition for a quarterback or characteristic for a quarterback to exhibit. They didn't let him do anything. Well, what's up with Frank Reich? Frank Reich, who orchestrated this most amazing comeback in the history of college football, among the greatest ever. That was a game that I left. I've told that story many times when he was playing for Maryland, Frank Reich. And Jimmy was pouring it on in the first half. I think the Canes were up like 35-2 or something. And my buddy and I, Mike Fernandez and I, we were doing some work on the game there and supposed to get some coverage. And we thought, well, this game's over. And we had another job that we had to go to, driving out of town to Ocala, do some, camera work there and make some commercials on some Ocala horse farm.
Yeah,
so we figured, it was like halftime, and we thought, let's just get the jump on this trip. It was an ugly trip, turnpike all the way, really disgusting. Where you're wondering, well, what the hell happened to the middle of the state?
I know Ocala well.
This guy, once you're there, it's okay. It's a little bit of a transformation from. Yeah, you probably had to drive through there to get to Tallahoot, no?
I did that like 5-6 times a year for 5 years. Yes.
Doesn't it seem like you're driving forever before you get to Ocala?
It's a good 4.5 to 5 hours. I mean, I think it's like 4.5 hours, something like that, depending on how good of a zone.
It was like 5 hours, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just a whole different world. You start to see hills. You're like, where the fuck am I?
Am I tripping? What happened here?
Like, what
state that was as flat as a Parisian runway model. All of a sudden, it's got undulation. Where am I? The Himalayas? I mean, unbelievable. Always enjoyable, though, and the opulence of the horse farms sometimes. I mean, there was some basic, well, we're a working farm here. We don't have a lot of fancy shit. Yeah. And then you had, who was the guy? He was First Jersey Securities. He was promoting this company for a while, and every commercial on TV was First Jersey Securities. The guy ended up, I think, in jail on some securities fraud.
Of course.
And, of course. What else would he be doing owning a horse farm in Ocala? But his farm was exquisite. I mean, he had modeled it after like one of these European horse farms, and wow, was it beautiful! Absolutely. What was the guy's name? Bob something.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Check out, just Google First Jersey Securities. Bob Brennan, yeah, very good. Andy would know the guy. Bob Brennan.
Course. Of course, Andy.
He was advertising on our show that we were doing. And,
we actually had him as an. Oh, yeah, I don't remember that.
Oh no, he was very generous, nice guy. I mean, but criminals tend to be like that, don't they? I mean, yeah, sure. What do you need? $5,000 for that? No problem. What did he care about? Put away enough cash. Bob Brennan. I don't know how much time did he do, Andy? Do you know? I mean, Andy would know because this is his game, stocks.
Yep.
Anyway, so we left that game at halftime thinking it was in the bag, and then we were listening on the radio for as far as we could pick it up. Wow. And we couldn't believe that this comeback. And Frank Reich was the man behind it. Maryland comes back, wins the ball game. We were disgusted. It was almost as bad as when we were about to leave. Fortunately, we didn't make it all the way to the exits on the Flutie pass play, which was another time that we thought, well, this game's in the bag. Let's beat the traffic. So when we're making our way out of there, and then all of a sudden, that ball's in the air, and look at that. My God, how did that? You experienced that? I've given you shit about it, but I've been guilty of it also. Where you left before the Ray Allen shot, and you were among the 2,000 people that were locked outside with your nose pressed to the glass.
I got back in. That's
you did.
The other people. I got there right when the shot went through the goddamn linen, through the net. I was like,
of course you were going to leave and beat the traffic there. It's a clusterfuck when you're leaving that arena.
I thought, well, we had a morning show. It was like it was late. We had a morning show, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to watch them celebrate to have to be up in 3 hours. Like, fuck.
Exactly. I would have done the same thing, Lubie. You know me. Halftime, I'm ready to go most games. That's why I don't go anymore.
Brennan got 10 years. Brennan did 10 years for
10 years. Wow.
securities fraud. Yeah.
So does that make me guilty that we had some of that money that
Probably.
was acquired by the government loves this terminology, ill-begotten means.
What do we know? I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
They used to bust all of the lawyers that had taken money from these coke dealers, right? Because they are very resentful that they were living this rich lifestyle. The prosecutors, you don't think there's an element of jealousy there? Some square prosecutor looks like Jack Webb on the Dragnet series, and he's looking at a guy that just speaking of opulence, he's driving like a Ferrari, to court, wearing fancy designer suits. I mean, he makes Pat Riley look like a bag lady. He's attorneys, and he's representing a guy who's guilty as I mean, he's going down anyway, and but he had to hand a lawyer like $300,000 to represent him, cash, and then the government loved going after the attorneys in those cases because they had received the money that was acquired through
Ill-begotten means.
Ill-begotten means. I'm a fan of it. I don't know. What do I care where the money came from? So what, El Chapo? Can you make that a cash payment, El Chapo? We don't take checks here at Barnaby and Barnaby Jones and Company. Unbelievable. All right, so the whole business about Frank Rank, I brought it up because Frank Rank, this guy that orchestrated this wild comeback, I mean, a circus-like comeback. Naturally, that was an extreme aerial attack on the Hurricanes' defense that day to bring them all the way back from like 35 points down. But why? I mean, if you're going to have the quarterback under wraps to that extreme, are you not? Now, they were in this game. They ended up losing 20-17 to the Saints, the Panthers. But if you were ever going to be completely unimpressed with a quarterback, never mind Zach Wilson. I mean, Bryce Young, does he even have the arm? Does he have a big enough arm to be a pro quarterback, Lubie, and be the number one overall pick? I mean, this guy looks pretty slight to me.
Oh, no, he's very slight.
He almost looked zombified also. Either he's the coolest cat on the planet or he was just a petrified zombie out there.
That's crazy. He threw 33 times to only have 153 yards. Holy shit.
Which is why some of these numbers are bogus. Only you people that resent the fact that Joe Namath's in the Hall of Fame because he had a 50% completion percentage for his career. This guy was chucking the ball into 50-mile-an-hour swirling winds at Shea Stadium.
He didn't give a shit.
80 yards down the field, there's Maynard, and he would have to come back to the ball and make the catch because the wind would knock it down and would just block it like you put up a screen.
Oh, my God.
It's incredible. He wasn't throwing these dinks and dunks. So, sure, he passed a couple of times to Snell and Boozer. But most of it, Pete Lammons, man. But, it was Maynard. It was Sauer, way down the field. Mm. And, having been at Shea a zillion times, obviously, in my career there as a vendor and the many times I went there as a fan, those wins during the football season, forget about it, Lubie. So, I mean, to complete 50% of your passes for your career in that period of time, by comparison to now, how can you possibly compare these numbers when he had a 67% completion percentage last night? He went 22 for 33. On the surface, you would say, wow, what accuracy. But he never threw the ball more than 3 yards down the field. Mm. If you're going to do that to a guy, I understand. Look, are they hoping what? That by year 3, he has it together? And I know it's only his second game, so I'm not critical of Bryce Young. He doesn't overwhelm me as being a pro prospect. Maybe I'm missing something. What was Alabama's quarterback play so great last year?
Oh, no, he was great. They had a lot of issues across the board, and he actually played really well. Like, the guy has a lot of talent. He just, when you look at him out there, you're like, okay, is he going to live?
He looked like they had allowed, some kid from Make-A-Wish, to come out there and take a snap at quarterback. He didn't really look like, a commanding presence, right? You see certain guys, and I'll say this too. I mean, I have not been impressed what little I've seen of Deshaun Watson since he was allowed back in the league. Well, what kind of cockamamie idea was it to give this guy this kind of a pile of cash? I mean, starts the game with a pick six, went off the hands of a receiver, but it was a poorly thrown ball, way too much to the outside. And you're going to force some passes in the pros if you're going to be successful. You're going to have to hit some of those. So I don't blame him for throwing a pass, but it was just as much, if not more so, on Watson, that pick six, as it was This wasn't one of those ones where the receiver has the ball hit him in the chin strap, bounces in the air and goes back for a pick six, and it goes against the quarterback statistically. This was clearly a play where Watson was at least at mutual, if not more, fault for the poor throw. And then later in the game, didn't he have a crucial fumble late in the ball game as well? Deshaun Watson. I mean, it doesn't look to me like he's all that dynamic. 22 out of 40 in the game for 235 yards. Chubb went out, and he's out for the season. Wow, he was having a big ball game too. Nick Chubb.
See, that's been his issue since Georgia. He always gets hurt. That sucks. He's legit. That sucks.
Oh, he was running hard and making plays. The play that he went down on, I think, also took out Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Andy says Watson has a bad back. He can't find a good masseuse.
I mean, where is this guy, though? Is he really that dynamic of a quarterback that you would make him the highest guaranteed contract player in the league? Capitulating to not just his demands, but enormous, outrageous compensation that they had to send to make the acquisition in the first place, and then on top of that wasn't alluded to too frequently, right? It was unlikely they were going to put up little thumbnail pictures of the 23 women that he paid off to get back into the league. Talk about a case that went away. This Rusty Harden must be. You talk about a troubleshooter. George Clooney, played a guy that was like always cleaning up messes as an attorney. I think it was the movie's name was like the name of like one guy, like Michael something.
Yeah, Michael Clayton. Wasn't that
Michael Clayton? Yeah, well, it wasn't a bad movie actually.
That was good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was all right. But he was like a fixer, kind of like Michael Cohen was for Donald Trump, a fixer, right? Stormy Daniels says, "Hey, I'm about to start telling a story, Donny boy." Trump picks up the phone, brushes his orange hair back, and says, "Okay, Michael, 30,000, no more." Did they have that phone call? I mean, Trump is not immune to the idea of just leaving a trail of obvious evidence in his wake there, and somehow, I think he's going to win again, Lubie. I really do.
I don't, but I don't think he's. I think the whole thing's going to be interesting. The fact that people said they will vote for a guy that's in prison actively, I don't know.
What does the world come to? No wonder. I mean, these people are just saying, "Hey, let's do whatever we can to fuck up America right now." If you were any other country in the world and any other world leader, whether you were on our side or just evilly opposed, as Kim Jong-un and Putin would be, wouldn't you look at America right now and say, "My God, those guys are fucked up. They have no idea what they're doing. I mean, they can't get it together. This democracy thing has become an unfortunate mess, as conceptually great as it is."
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like the idea I'm talking about with Frank Reich. I mean, if that's how you have to go with Bryce Young, I don't know that you're going to really find yourself very satisfied that was worth the price that you paid to get this kid.
I mean, look, we've seen so many quarterbacks get rocked early and it screw them that I guess what you're doing is getting the ball out of his hands. You're not letting it. I don't think he's getting hit a lot. So maybe you're building his confidence. But you're not wrong. Like, I tried to watch that game. And
there was no excitement factor. Yeah.
I was like, I would rather watch the Steelers and Browns. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever said that.
How come Derek Carr is so demonstrative when it appears another player might have made a mistake? And yet when he, like, airmails one, 5 yards over a receiver's hands who's wide open, he doesn't seem to, treat that with the same disdain.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. It's all like, shucks, I missed him, But there was a back that didn't turn around. It would have had a touchdown, it looked like, earlier in the ball game. And Carr, I'm not a fan of this. It was sort of Marino-esque, where he used to come running down the field screaming at Clayton and Duper, with a big red face after they would miss a pass. This was more late in his career, wasn't it? Marino, was he getting increasingly more frustrated? As did Shula actually tell him at some point, or was it just Jimmy that said, "The next time you miss a long pass, we're going to run the ball the next 15 plays"? And Danny's like, "What? What are you talking about?" Unbelievable. But anyway, so it was not the most compelling action last night. Many people thought the Steelers playing into extremely favorable trends. I think the Steelers have now won like 20 straight games on Monday Night Football.
Oh wow.
and have owned the Browns. It's either they've won an enormous number of games successively on Monday Night Football, and then on top of that, have beaten the Browns like a drum. And that may be what the 20-game streak is, that they've beaten the Browns like 20 in a row in Pittsburgh. So anybody, and there were people that were trying to make a case that the Browns were going to be a big play in this game. Pittsburgh had looked awful in their first game, and so you had reason to believe that maybe they were really bad. And I don't know that they were so extremely impressive in this game last night. They had capitalized on a couple of big plays. The pick six early in the ball game against Deshaun Watson, and then later on, what was a fumble also taken back for a touchdown? Is that possible? They scored on like the first and last play of the game. Very first play of the game, they got the pick six and established a lead. But the Steelers beat the Browns. So both teams now, didn't the Browns say they won their first game, didn't they? So they're both 1-1.
The shit out of Cincinnati. It was fucking weird.
Saints 2-0 with a margin of difference, a total of 4 points to win the two games. And it just goes to show you that the W is really, literally, as big as the big E on the eye chart. It really doesn't matter how it comes about. It's going to be irrelevant later on in the season. These early season games, in my estimation, I always say this about baseball, that, teams are talking about, oh, well, you know what, those important games in September. But if you blow a bunch of games in April, that can be just as costly. And that's why it was great. Yeah. I mean, if the Marlins make the postseason, you could attribute much of that to the fact that they won all of those one-run games early in the season.
Yes, they set themselves in years past when they actually figured stuff out in June, July. It didn't matter because, like you joked, they were already already
mathematical elimination.
Like you want to set yourself up so that you can fuck around later. Like that's it. Look, the college football is the only time I do that because teams are not created equal. The NFL, they're all NFL players. Yes, some teams have a little bit more talent, but on any given Sunday, as they say, a team can bite another team in the ass. Like a win's a win. Like I haven't complained about the Dolphins win. I didn't like
the Dolphins win. I thought was fine. The panic that was ascribed to it because New England had a shot there at the end, possibly tying the game. I thought was somewhat unjustified. Yes, it was happening, and yes, it comes under the heading of as we talked about on our morning briefing yesterday on No Filter. Literally, and I don't know, did we mention this yesterday morning on our show? Because I got hit with a blackout in the middle of the show. That was weird, right? I got knocked right out of the program when John Kangemi was on. I couldn't figure out what was happening until the fan stopped.
Oh, no. You didn't even know.
Like, oh, shit, the power's out.
Oh,
well, because the computer stays on because it's on a battery. And, and I realized, okay, it got a little dark in here all of a sudden. But there's a light that comes on automatically on this camera that I have. Okay. That if you lose the lighting that you have, it puts a little, light into the situation there. There's a little light atop the camera that goes off when these other lights that I have, are not in use. Okay. So at first I'm looking at it going, what the fuck happened here? Then I thought, well, am I in Morocco? The building's shaking.
Oh, Jesus.
That had to be a freak out, Louie. I'm glad you were the one that, remained calm, and Shirley was the one who panicked.
It was very weird. The building started swaying, and I'm like, that's weird. And her face went white, and I'm like, I think it's an earthquake. She's like, of course it's an earthquake, you idiot.
Of course it's an earthquake, you idiot. You don't often hear that from your wife.
Well, Shirley's very liberal when I'm stupid.
I would say, in the 8 years that I was living in Los Angeles, I probably experienced, anywhere between a half a dozen and maybe 10, like tremors in different, at times, all very short and brief, and none of which, did any kind of serious damage. And then, this is what happens. You tend to believe that it's all okay, and then all of a sudden you see like an entire city collapse, like happened later on there with the Northridge earthquake.
Yep.
But I mean, that's when it's as people always say, with hurricanes, at least you have some kind of idea what's happening, when it's going to hit, what the likelihood is. You may not know exactly precisely where the hit's going to take place, but it doesn't come as a complete surprise.
No, look, it may be sometimes we're laissez-faire, or sometimes we go overboard and then it misses us or hits us. But nowadays we know they know when it's out in Africa. Like we know for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The Lee thing I heard about before I left, and then it didn't hit till I was coming back. Lee. So
yeah, there's all the schmutz out there in the middle of the Atlantic too. Which is there some new weather pattern that is actually favorable for the United States? I don't want to jinx this thing because we only have about a month and a half to go.
Yep.
But it seems like all of these things that start out and off the coast of Africa are now heading north by the time they get, like halfway across the ocean.
Yeah.
Because, you're always wondering, I don't know if you keep track of this, being a statistical guy, where they say, there's going to be like between 14 and 16 named storms this year.
Yep.
And we're already on like Zach, I think. Zelda. So I'm thinking we're out of the woods, Welcome to America. You're free. That's, so we'll see what happens with that. But there's always some schmutz out there for sure that they try to drag into the situation. All right. So the 2 football games, not overwhelmingly inspiring, were they? I mean, what I always appreciate, and this is probably true of every city, and maybe especially so when I don't know, if you're a fan of a team, it doesn't matter. The night game naturally creates in the NFL a much bigger, and more resounding vibe. Now, this is a big-time rivalry, too, which we don't necessarily appreciate here. We don't give a flying one about the Steelers and the Browns, do we? Cleveland versus Pittsburgh. 2 hardcore working man cities where you see guys walking around in construction helmets. And, they're working at the mill.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're thinking, in fact, there are cities that you use in reference to the idea, like every now and then people get tired and they maybe things aren't going so great. They're having a down period of time. You're losing all of your bets. Your wife's giving you a hard time. You're thinking, geez, do I really want to pay these property taxes, and continue to do this? Well, why? I mean, I could live anywhere, right? And then you think, it sure beats living in
Cleveland
or Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've never said Pittsburgh, but I guess.
But Cleveland is one of the first cities that pops up when you say it sure beats living in.
I would say Cleveland or Buffalo.
2 losing propositions there, my friend. I think I would prefer Cleveland to Buffalo, I believe.
Well, from what I see, I've never been. You've been. From what I've heard, Buffalo.
At least they had that Ali Wepner fight there. They had, Don King's. From
the way people talk about Buffalo, like it's Siberia. Like,
it is. It's horrendous.
It's never nice. Like never.
I'm telling you. I mean, the weather in Buffalo was worse than Syracuse. And Syracuse in the wintertime was absolutely no bargain. I was not prepared for it, Lubie. I had been through winters in New York, and they were nothing. I mean, on Long Island and in Brooklyn, it was nothing like the weather in Syracuse. You can't even imagine the differential. It literally would be like comparing Cocoa Beach to Juneau, Alaska.
Oh, Jesus.
It was insane, the differential. So, the cold was a variety of which that you probably felt just like those guys did in the Andes Mountains.
Oh, God.
Most days just going to the quad there. You had to consider whether to eat like your roommate's flesh, especially when it had co-ed dorms. All right, but that my freshman year, of course, that was not the case, right? I mean, it was isolation, my friends. Men were here, women were there, and we all wanted to go on a panty raid. All right, we're going to come back with more. We have the full slate of games. The Dolphins are favored fairly convincingly. 6-point favorites last time I looked in their ball game coming up against the Denver Broncos. Now 6 and a hook. So people are sending in on the Miami Dolphins. Guess who is the favorite to win the league MVP this year? Guess who is the favorite at 5.5 to 1?
I don't know.
Talking about the AP MVP favorites in the National Football League. Number 1 favorite is?
I don't know. It can't be Mahomes. They're struggling. I don't know. That's a good question.
Mahomes is the second choice.
Okay,
to Tua Tagovailoa. Would you take 5.5 to 1 that Tua will be the MVP this year? Somehow I don't see that happening.
I don't think it's happening. I just think it would be the funny. I don't even know if I would do a touchdown dance. Like, I think I would just be in awe of my 4-year argument winning.
Herbert, becomes a subject of trade talk.
And it's not Herbert's fault. I
Whether
agree.
or not the Chargers made a monumental mistake by giving him the contract.
I agree with you when you were talking to I don't hate Herbert. I think he's good. I,
Herbert, still to me, I would take Herbert over to him.
I know you would, and that's
Yeah.
fine. I'm not mad at that part. My problem was when people talk about how he's vastly better and Tua's vastly worse. When they have similar records, they have actually similar stats for the most part. The problem is Tua finally got a coach that's not an idiot. He's weird, but he's not an idiot. And Herbert's been shackled to moron after moron.
McDaniel is perfect for Tua, as and you go back and you think, well, this is just meaningless. Obviously it's happy talk. A guy gets the job there, and he's talking to his quarterback, and it's been shown many, many times where McDaniel is on Stephen Ross's private jet flying to Miami, and he's on his cell phone. Which how is he making a cell phone call?
It's interesting how none of us are ever allowed to use a phone, but they always use cell phones on private planes.
It's not throwing off the apparatus that they're using to fly this plane, huh? Hey, Mike, can you hang up the fucking phone? Talk to him when you get there. We're about to crash into a mountain. What are you talking about? But anyway, and he's on the phone with Tua, and he's going, my job is to, make you the best quarterback that you can be and bring out all of your abilities and everything. And I would have to say that he has a pretty good comprehension of how to do that, because when Tua's zipping those little darts in there on the slant passes anywhere between 5 and 15 yards down the field, he's great.
Well, look, and outside of this one,
his timing and everything is impeccable. You don't have to worry about the offensive line being a porous mess.
Look, he's been throwing it down the field well too. He's doing everything fine. He's not taking hits. He's doing all the things you want him to do. My contention was, why can't all three quarterbacks be good? Like sometimes you just hit it. Like Burrow's good, Herbert's good, and Tua's good. And why can't all three just fit? Herbert just got fucked by having. What I don't get is why he wasn't fired this offseason. Like you're just wasting Herbert's.
Oh, with Brandon Staley
years. Yeah, it's just dumb. Now you have to pay him. Now that's when teams sort of go into a tank because you can't pay other guys anymore. Like it was just weird to waste all that time with that crappy ass coach for the Chargers. I just don't get it.
Jim Sarney coming in heavy with Dolphin favorability in this game. Broncos coming into heavy humidity here in South Florida.
True.
Yeah. I would favor the Dolphins. I have been unimpressed with the Broncos. The fact that they were within a 2-point conversion in that game against Washington was very, very deceptive, because they had literally failed throughout most of that ball game. Not just to be contentious, but to look like a team that you would consider to be any kind of serious threat. Russell Wilson, I watched him. He had like 8 plays from like the 5-yard line.
Yep.
Late in the ball game, a clutch situation. If you're really a good team, you're at home in what would have to be madly favorable conditions there. I mean, the humidity and the heat is one thing here. The altitude in Denver, has that not been beyond the 12th man for the Denver Broncos for many, many years?
And it was an East Coast team. Like Washington doesn't deal with any of that shit.
No. And Washington, I mean, who's on the Commanders?
They have a good defensive line. Like the Sweat kid and Young are really good. But the rest of that team, I couldn't. Howell, you want to talk about little?
Offensively, you would have to think that they're as challenged as any team that Ron Rivera has ever put out there on the field.
Yep.
And that includes what? Where was Rivera? The Bears when they had no offense for many, many years?
Panthers, who actually were decent.
Panthers, they had their moments with Cam Newton and company, but unfortunately, I mean, they're just. You would have to think that if any team is in transition, never mind Houston, the Commanders have been in transition forever, and now they're transitioning out of the Colonel Kurtz situation they were in, the horror of Dan Snyder, and the pall that was cast upon the entire organization that you would have to think eventually seeped all the way down to the field. No. That this was such a badly run organization. We've said that about what? The Miami Marlins in the past. Such a poorly run organization that, eventually it just manifests itself into an El Stinkaroo on the field in terms of the product.
Yep.
Very rarely do you see teams prosper under those circumstances. There have been teams in toxic environments that that have fared very well, right? I mean, look, the Bronx Zoo, New York Yankees, Oakland A's with Joe Rudy and company. But if you have a really poorly run organization where there's a lot of negativity, you rarely see those teams having big years. When was the last time the Redskins and/or Commanders were relevant to any kind of championship conversation? It
I
seems
mean,
like what?
young RG3, I think they won a playoff game, but no one considered them a contender. It's the 90s. It's with Joe Gibbs, with Mark Rippett. That was the last time they were fucking relevant.
Yeah, I think it goes back to John Riggins, maybe. I love when he told Sandra Day O'Connor to chill out.
That's great.
Did he say what? Chill out, bitch? What was it exactly that he said to the Supreme Court justice at a banquet that he was attending? You know, and Riggins wasn't exactly the type that you want to, have at a black tie affair. All right, we're going to come back with more in a moment. And later on, we're going to go past 9 o'clock today as Iron Eagle is going to join us. Now, what was the thing? I saw that was like a big deal. It was on the morning news and everything that Iron Eagle dropped the Taylor Swift line when Kelsey made that catch in the end zone.
So supposedly for a long time, Travis Kelce intimated that he had this crush on Taylor Swift, and then lately they've been linked, which makes sense. She's single.
Okay.
Good-looking dude who.
And what isn't Travis Kelce selling now?
Exactly. He's everywhere.
I think he has mesothelioma, I'm sorry to say. I saw him endorsing one of those law firms.
Yeah, they brought him into the subway with Patrick Mahomes, and I think he does the other one.
He's on every commercial. There's nothing he isn't hawking. I texted that. That's what I texted to Tesla. Because he was in marketing originally before he became an agent. He was marketing Mike Allstott, or helping him with his marketing stuff. And what isn't Kelsey on? He's on every commercial, isn't he?
He's pretty active. So they're linked now, and I guess
selling soup.
I guess Ian did a Taylor Swift song reference when he scored a touchdown, like a big touchdown in the game.
Catch Me, I'm in Space or something. I don't know.
Space. She had a song named Blank Space. I have to find it. I don't have it.
Right. It was very appropriate. I mean, only Iron Eagle, as only Iron Eagle could do.
And it blew up. It actually, for the rare time, Iron Eagle stuff usually he's very subtle. Yeah. Usually goes under the radar. Like he's not Joe Buck yelling to try and get SportsCenter. It actually caught the wire, and I guess it went viral.
And I doubt, in Ian's case, knowing him as we do, that this was something like Al Michaels had "Do you believe in miracles" written on his cufflink.
I mean, you'll obviously ask him.
And it was like, well, what was that line I was going to use? Do you believe in miracles? Of course I ad-libbed that. What are you talking about? It just came to me all of a sudden in the heat of the moment. So that was probably, I mean, do you think he had that pre-planned? We'll have to ask him about that.
Well, you're obviously going to ask him.
And also ask him if it's okay to refer to you as Mr. Morocco. Anyway, he's going to join us like an hour from now. Iron Eagle, the great Iron Eagle from CBS Sports and many other affiliations. Play-by-play voice of the Brooklyn Nets. And also, TNT? He's going to be the voice of the Final Four this year?
Oh, yeah. Good
man's having a career. Are you kidding me?
He's getting there.
What will he have to say about Rick Pitino when St. John's is in the Final Four?
Oh, my God. That'd be amazing.
They just signed like their 8th 7-footer. It's incredible, man. None of these guys are going to be able to take the subway there into Queens. They're going to be all too tall. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:01.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Motion man, low snap. Mahomes moving pocket. Mahomes floats it up. Caught. Touchdown, Travis Kelce. Kelce finds a blank space.
All right, very good. Mike Lubie's doing a little production on the fly here, and that's part of the whole streaming sensation. As you can pretty much take anything, and when they say cease and desist, you say, "Oh, yeah, I stopped that a long time ago.
We're gonna have him
Come
on.
after me." All right, Blank Space was the name of the song amid rumors that Travis Kelce is, as you pointed out, Mike Lubitz, and I'm reading this off some People magazine type of site here. It has a dating relationship with Taylor Swift.
Yeah, you remember that first time? I don't know if you were watching that touchdown where Mahomes goes to the right, Kelce goes to his right.
Yeah, I saw that play.
Wide open. I guess I wasn't listening. I didn't even hear it. But then he's like, Kelce finds a blank, and it was natural because he's eyeing.
Yeah,
but it was a perfect reference.
How familiar in general do you think Ian Eagle would be with Taylor Swift songs? We'll have to ask him that.
Yes. Well,
I wouldn't be able to name you a title. The only title of any of those pop singers that I'm familiar with, and she just made a giant score, was Katy Perry, who had just picked up $225 million for her song rights. What do they call that?
The catalog. Wow.
Song catalog.
Wow, good for her. Jesus.
Yeah, 225. That's a nice number there for. And of course, the song was "Roar," which was the tip that we had from Footy at the Super Bowl. That "Roar" would be the first song that she did in the Super Bowl halftime show, the year that she was performing the halftime show, and you could bet on that. And he had inside information, literally. Could we possibly, be brought up on charges? I mean, is that the kind of inside information the government can make a case out of?
No.
Now that it's been weaponized by both, the Republicans and the Democrats, so whoever's in charge here is weaponizing the Department of Justice, which doesn't always deal in the greatest interest of equality to begin with. You would have to say it's not proven throughout history. But yeah, so Footy had a friend that was at the rehearsal. You guys know the story, but for the unfamiliar, was at the Super Bowl halftime show rehearsal, and Katy Perry opened up the rehearsal with "Roar," and pretty much, replicated exactly the way she had rehearsed it, which you would imagine, right? I mean, is she going to be fucking around at the rehearsal, Lubie? Is this like a walkthrough where you're just clowning around? No, this is serious stuff, right? Can make or break a career. I guess most of the people that are performing halftime shows have pretty much solidified their career, but does it not enhance it greatly if you go down in history as performing one of the great halftime shows? Whereas, I mean, I know, Dustin Hoffman, terrific actor. Who could deny that, right? But wasn't he in Ishtar? Some piece of shit that he made with Warren Beatty? Who was it that took exception with that? Was it Jason Cole that said that Ishtar was actually not a bad movie?
I don't think it was Cole. Someone did, though. But I think it's Segredo. For some reason, it feels like it's a Segredo thing.
No, Tony wouldn't have brought that up, I don't think.
I don't remember. I know what you're talking about. I mean, it's been a
Was it The Professor?
No, Ken would not live like Ishtar.
Sorry, I even said that. Everybody has their bad moments, but yeah, you don't want to bomb at the Super Bowl, do you?
No, not at all. Are you kidding me?
Who had the worst halftime show of all time? I mean, we often discuss who had the best. Let's look at the other side of things here.
There's been a lot.
There were any number of bricks, weren't there? It was kind of embarrassing, even though I like him, that when Roger Daltrey was with The Who and he couldn't hit the notes anymore, and he was still doing a thing, like an 80-year-old guy twirling a microphone around, like he was swinging around a big, piece of apparatus there. Holy mandingo, what are we talking about here? Incredible. But yeah, he just didn't have it anymore. It was almost as tragic as when I was at the Orleans and I saw the Righteous Brothers when Bobby Hatfield couldn't hit the high notes. You've lost that love and feeling. I mean, imagine butchering your signature song. Is that not a sign that it's time to retire? They accepted it though. The fans still they loved the guy so much. He was like, okay, he's trying.
You get it? What do you mean? The Stones weren't they still touring within this last year? And they're like,
I think they were planning another one.
you can't tell me they sing the same as they did in the '60s.
They're close though.
I mean,
Are they sucking on those melons that that Dr. Savant from the Cindy Crawford ad? I mean, is that all they eat?
oh my God.
How do you remain that skinny throughout life? Can't just be drugs. I mean, they can't all be on drugs at 80 years old, can they?
No, I think they eventually quit.
You would have to think they're clean as a whistle, no?
Had to.
That every cell is just as pure as a mountain stream.
There you go.
Keith Richards, I mean, please, he had an oil change, not even a blood transfusion, just a complete oil change. He went in. They said, "You want us to rotate the tires too? That's an extra $40, Mr. DeForest." Just like to keep them the same. I feel pretty comfortable with the ride right now.
Exactly.
$40, my ass, right? All right. World of sport. So Tua is the favorite to win the MVP. That kind of surprised me. Is there that much Tua steam around the country? People around the country are more enamored with Tua Tagovailoa than the people here in town. That's a good thing about his name too. You could stumble right over it and still pronounce it correctly. Did I just make Tagovailoa like 11 syllables? I think I did. Hey, this world of sports, man. It's a lot of pressure here. So he's a favorite. Mahomes is a second choice. Now, I don't know. Is Mahomes going back to back as MVP? Look, you can't go by the fact that Kansas City's offense hasn't been brilliant yet. And if it hasn't been, then that makes it even more essential that you have Mahomes on your roster because he's the one guy that can make. Is that not by definition the MVP? A guy that can single-handedly make up for the flaws of a team and bring them over the top? We'll see. Josh Allen, I can't see that after that game one. I guess he really did a reversal of form, a complete 180 in week number 2. He's 9-1, third choice. Jalen Hurts at 9-1, tied for the third choice. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know. Jacksonville, did they overwhelm you?
No, they were rough.
That didn't look too swift. What was happening? Now it is week 2. Jason Cole has come on the show many times since the rule changes have taken place and training camp has gone from Marquis de Sade type conditions, which I mean, I don't know. Is this salvaging careers? To take this approach, I would have to say, not being a big fan of practice in general, I always thought it was overrated, Lubie, and that the amount of practicing that football teams did didn't necessarily ever equate out to great performances in games. This whole business of coaches sleeping at the office, and then you watch it, and they just make a series of bozoic play calls that completely blow the ball game for them, and you're thinking, what was the point? Maybe if you got some rest, you would have been making better decisions. But has it really, has it had any great impact on injuries? I mean, it seems like we're seeing an equal number of severe injuries, whether they practiced a lot or not. But you would think that the teams would be ready to go at week 1, and yet Jason Cole has been warning us for several seasons now. Don't even bother formulating an opinion about a team till you get to like almost week 5.
He said the good teams now, and it was referring to the Patriots, but I don't know if they're a good team anymore. But the good teams now futz around in the first month. The first month, if they can make it out 2-2, they're usually pretty happy. Like they don't want to be 0-4, obviously, then you're in trouble. But if you can be 2-2, you're good. Because the preseason is such a fucking joke now that most teams are scared to play their starters. And even when they do, it's like a half a quarter. So like the first month, that's my problem is I laugh at the Tua MVP stuff, but it's like, okay, like, what are you doing with that?
Somehow, I mean, no matter how good of a season he has, I don't envision him compiling. And I know he had a lot of yards in a game against the Chargers. But and he was fine for the most part in the game against the New England Patriots. I thought he orchestrated the game very well. He had a couple of he really his timing on those short passes has been great. He really delivers. I mean, literally, he looks like a dart thrower in there. He doesn't throw the ball with a lot of trajectory. It seems like it's a bit of a heave for him when he has to go downfield, does it not?
Well, it's when he tries to go downfield in these
Remember
one-on-one.
when you used to try to throw the ball as far as you could? You know, and you almost looked like you were a shot putter, spinning up there, and finally you'd let the ball go in some awkward fashion. Doesn't it seem like he's mustering up all he can to heave the ball down the field? It's not like, you're watching Joe Flacco early in his career.
Although, look, the one in week 1 to Tyreek Hill on that 3rd and 10 when he ran into the pocket, where he ran to the line, he threw it like 50 yards.
Yeah.
And it was in stride between 2 defenders. It's when he tries to like be in the pocket and throw a goddamn bomb 60 yards. But the problem is no one needs him to do that. So I get it. He's not Josh Allen, but he's also not. I'm trying to think of a guy who was
He's almost lined up like Usain Bolt when he's throwing those long ones, right? Like he's aiming up into the sky there. I don't know. MVP material, that seems like a lofty expectation, does it? Not that it matters. I mean, I'm hoping if he can just sustain what he's doing, it looks to me like you're gonna have your opinion somewhat distinguished and validated. That maybe that there's not much difference. I mean, just depending on how you employ them. You're wondering what Mike McDaniel could do with an arm that Justin Herbert has.
But that's the thing is maybe Herbert isn't as good at getting rid of the ball and he's not as accurate. Like I think all 3 guys are legit. I think it's a rare look. I get all these drafts, 2 are a bust or 1 or a bust and 1 is good. Maybe it was a rare draft like that Kelly, Marino, or look, the Rivers, Roethlisberger, Eli class. All 3 quarterbacks fit their roles and their clubs, and all are either Hall of Famers or borderline Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Why you just have a class like that? Look, Hurts too. All 4 of those guys are in one class. Maybe all 4 of those guys just fit those jobs. I know Dolphins and Chargers fans are going to have the debate to the end of the world. I'm not. I'm happy with Tua. I think Tua fits McDaniel. And if you're a Chargers fan, I'm sure you're happy with Herbert. You just hate fucking Staley.
Yeah, we had that discussion a little bit yesterday, and we were talking with Brett Tessler about that.
It was Tess. Yeah, it was Tess.
Look, the guy obviously has some aptitude for coaching, but when a coach is always on the losing end, and it seems like he has made some strange call during the course of the game that usually upends any chance you have of actually coming out on top. That consistently backfires. And makes you just wonder, why doesn't this guy ever, go for what would be more logical, which is, okay, take a field goal here and, go up by 6, whatever. Put the pressure on the other team to at least, get a field goal on their next drive or force them to have to go for touchdowns because you've put them down to 6 points late in the ballgame. And instead, and I normally would be a fan of being aggressive, but, you can't do it every time. And good coaches have instincts for when to make these moves. I think what we're seeing with Staley is that he doesn't have that instinct, and all we would have to do, if we can find him, is he really like caddying in Las Vegas? Brandon Lang, what the hell is that?
I have no idea.
It'd be like finding out that Stu Feiner was the head chef at Rayo's. Are you really going to go and add the meatballs there? No, I mean, I can understand where Lang would be, good at advising people. I think you're going to need a 7-iron, sir. No, you can't see Brandon Lang with a bag on his, shoulder.
Maybe
Some 90-year-old guy that's, out there retired in Las Vegas is rolling around. I don't know. I mean, the golf course is there. It's not cheap. If you want to go play golf,
like a celebrity thing where like they're getting to spend a day with Lang and he's telling them because he's good at golf. Like he plays a lot of golf.
That could be. Oh yeah, so it could be a
Vegas
deal where they grease him pretty handsomely.
It's got to be ridiculous to play there. So maybe he's worked out a deal with the course. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past him. He's Lang. Like he knows how to make money off his name as well as anyone.
He's probably hustling guys out there in the course. What do you think? I bet I could put a 9-iron closer to the pin than you can get with that 3-wood, sir. And sure enough, like he was Phil Mickelson. Phil says he's not gambling anymore. That's it.
Oh, that's good.
I find this somewhat far-fetched, and I don't know how this came about, but this conversation was never a pleasant one in my household. I can assure you. He says that his wife, Amy, helped him get through all this.
Oh, good. It took it. Where was she the last 3 decades?
Well, he was betting $1 billion, supposedly, according to that Walters guy that wrote the book, who seemed very credible to me. Walters reminded me a little bit, most people would not be familiar with this gentleman, but the great Bob Knuth, the Duke, in his manner. Seems to be just speaking truth. So I don't know if the numbers were exactly, what Phil was, or what Walters was implying, but they had to be substantial. And there were always rumors about Phil Mickelson. There were stories that, oh, yeah, he bet 600,000 on the Chiefs. I know the guy, Louie, who wrote the ticket. There was always that going on. But the concept that your wife could help you stop gambling, how? By leaving you?
I was gonna say she can help you. I don't know if the word "help" is the term. It's usually threaten you.
There's a chance if you're a degenerate gambler that you don't mind if she leaves anyway, no matter how much in love with you are.
That's what the other part.
Correct.
Are the
Right.
threats gonna work? Aren't you like
James Caan? He's got Lauren Hutton all over him when she was a hot babe.
Prime? Yeah, prime.
Yeah, and he says, I'd rather bet. Takes her to Vegas. Has a good time. She was a good luck charm for him there. But they don't pay off at halftime, Axel.
100%.
unless you're the Greek, right? Which people are betting the first half. But anyway, so he says his wife. Is there anybody out there that buys that the wife was instrumental in helping him stop gambling?
I mean, I can buy it. I'm curious as to why now.
Because what? She went Ray Donovan on the guy.
Yeah, she probably
Got a baseball bat out there. It says, I see one more bet on this telephone, Phil. And it's over, my friend. The whole story goes out the window.
I mean, honestly.
You can't blame him, though, for taking the $200 million, in light of the fact, these revelations that we got from Walters in the book about the amounts of money that Phil was betting. And if he was betting on the U.S. 400,000 to win the Ryder Cup, do we have a problem with that? No, seriously. If he was betting on Europe and all of a sudden he was like, no, you can have that one, Sergio. Fucking Garcia's standing over a 9-footer and Phil's conceding. Right? Whoever the captain of the team is coming running out there. Steve Stricker. What? What are you doing, Phil? Such ugliness created by degeneracy. All right, so no money on Tua. Getting back to the theme of the day here.
Nah.
I saw that this morning. I almost fell off the throne. And not that it's so far-fetched, but, I mean, is there really this kind of sentiment around the country?
I mean, right now, I guess you would do someone on the Cowboys because they've been pretty dominant through 2 games.
But you're not giving it to Dak Prescott. I mean, there's enough negative narrative about Dak Prescott's play overall that I don't think he would ever get MVP consideration. Jerry Jones is more likely to get MVP consideration.
I just don't know who else you put there right now. Everyone's struggling. Like the NFL's been very parity-filled the first 2 weeks.
It's great, and it isn't fueled by debate anymore. Strictly by degeneracy. This whole conversation about MVP. Who would care about, in week number 2, who the MVP of the NFL is at this stage, unless there were odds on it?
Oh, yeah.
Would you really be going up to a guy in a sports bar and saying, hey, you know what, Mo? I tell you what, there's no way that Tua doesn't win MVP this year.
No one cares about that now. It's week 2. Turn arms.
Who can decipher? I have to look at the standings to see who's 1-1, and
yeah,
it's hard to follow. And there was always this theory, and I'm not sure. As we mentioned this yesterday with John Kajemi before the power went out here at the Defo household. 0-2 used to be like, oh my God, you don't want to go to 0-2. So is it 0-3 now? And you would see, I mean, just a marked difference in teams that were facing these situations where they were about to drop into a statistical category where it was almost impossible to make the postseason, and you've only played 3 stinking games. So what would it be? I mean, the Bengals, were they not 0-2 last year?
Yes, I was going to say the Bengals were 0-2, and they made it all the way. But they made the championship game again last year.
The Dolphins were off to a tremendous start and then went through that rough sledding there. And all of a sudden, it's like they're a 500 team.
Yep.
What happened here?
Yep.
We were all so thrilled. This conversation would be absolutely meaningless. Who would be a bomb to win it, though? There were some long odds on some players, and for good reason. Christian McCaffrey Could San Francisco go all the way and play again in an NFC title game? And Christian McCaffrey is the main catalyst there. And you cash Lubie at 66-1.
Oh wow, yeah, because I would say Samuel. Wouldn't it be Samuel? I mean, they're not going to.
Debo Samuel. I think the way McCaffrey started out,
Oh, he's been killing it.
it appears that he has been doing the bulk of the work there. Although McCaffrey, is he not also inclined to miss games because of injury?
He always gets hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan Love is 40-1. I wouldn't put money on that, would you?
No.
Brock Purdy 20-1. That's an interesting shot.
I think they're the best team in football, and you know how that goes. If the totals are spread across a team, they just throw it at the quarterback.
Yeah,
like I don't think he's going to get in their way, and that's all that team needs is for him to stay out of the fucking way.
Lamar Jackson 12-1.
He's a guy that because the Ravens are actually playing really well.
There's an extremely high opinion of Lamar Jackson among people around the league. They love to give Lamar Jackson credit for being brilliant. We had seen some flaws in Lamar Jackson in the past. Has he corrected those?
I think he's fine until the playoffs. I think when teams don't get to hone in on you for a week or whatever, and it's a regular season, he's great. The problem is he's the same guy. Like, and people want to give him credit. He's not different. He's great at running, and he can throw on the run. And if he can catch you off guard by running, he's a tremendous athlete who has a really strong arm.
Yeah.
But when in the playoffs, when you start playing really good defenses and they can study you for 2 weeks, he gets kept in the pocket, and he's not good at like going through reads and throwing accurately in the middle of the field. That's not his strong suit. It never has been. And no one will tell me it is, because I've watched him time and time again in those moments, and he's the same guy. And it's okay. Look, he's a starting guy. He will win you a lot of games. I don't see him winning you a title, an AFC title game or a Super Bowl. We just haven't seen it, and I don't think you will.
Yes, he's a guy you want to keep in the pocket and force to throw, and maybe even throw to the outside.
Yes, and then the outside's even worse than the field. He's horrendous at that.
But we remember him being absolutely dissected, dismembered in situations where they forced that kind of action out of Lamar Jackson in the postseason, and he would end up with a lousy passing percentage and throw for 141 yards while being even sacked and picked off a couple of times. So, he's vulnerable. 12-1, no. There's always this big sentiment to anoint him as one of the greats.
Well, because he puts up tons of stats. Like, he's great. Look, there's only so many defense that can – what I'm asking to do isn't easy. Like, a talent like his is not easy.
And he's an exciting player to watch. So that adds a little spark to his
it's not like he can't
MVP.
throw. Like, you've talked about this. He can throw the ball. It's just he's not super, super accurate when in the pocket. But there's only like 4 defenses in the league that can do that. So like it takes to like the last game of the playoffs, and then they can stop him. So all season long, he's running, he's throwing, he's making teams look stupid like Barry Sanders. Like, he's on highlights with the stats. That's a guy that wins MVP. So he's probably a safe bet to be top 3 or 4. I'm surprised he's not top 3 right now when it comes to MVP odds, because they're 2-0 and he's played really well.
Who do you think Phil has his money on?
No.
Can you ever really quit? I guess some people have to. I understand that, but in the modern age, I would imagine far more gamblers are being created every day. That young man Henry, who does a nice job for us there with the No Filter and the tidbits that he takes out of what we do, and that's really, it's so funny to think. I was telling Mustang the other day that and this is what got me thinking about moving the time of the show a little bit. Because, we've been torturing ourselves to get up for like the last couple of years to be on a, show at 7 o'clock. Now, you're saying that the majority of people that tune in come on after that. And in fact, in streaming and podcasting protocol, usually people aren't watching it live to begin with.
Yep.
It's just up there. I don't mind. I like doing, the thing early in the morning. But do we really need to be doing it that early became in question, especially for those few days that you were out.
No.
And I was like, do I want to wake up the professor and pull one off today? You know what? Why don't I wait till Friday?
Yeah.
But even sleeping like an extra hour was a good thing. So the post time for the show will be 8 o'clock. We should kind of emphasize that to the people that tune in at 7, and we're going to start that next week.
Yes, you have your latest AC foray. So we're excited for that.
Yeah, leaving tomorrow afternoon. So I'll be able to do the shows in the morning,
Nice.
And fortunately for you and the amount of food you're going to take out of this place, I won't be able to make that Casa Calabria thing for the second month in a row, which is very disappointing, as you can imagine.
Well, for you, it's not disappointing for me.
That comes under the heading of that shit's great.
It's,
It really
it's
does.
as high level food as you're going to get in South Florida, and
Yeah.
we have the place shut down. I feel like we're the Rat Pack because there's no one there, and they just cater to us like we're freaking Sammy Davis Jr. and Sinatra.
I got a meeting here with some of the boys. I would appreciate it if you turned off the security cameras while we were inside. No, it's not like that, but it feels that way. I mean, you're at a high end. The thing about it that's great, it's a high end restaurant, Casa Calabria, called Ocean Mile.
Yep.
Our good friend Frank Tallarico, we've known forever, and the guy, was a brilliant promoter. He was one of the guys that believed in things that you don't understand. It was there is superstition. It was right out of a Stevie Wonder song. But it was great because he believed in having radio shows and television shows at his place. Was always promoting like that. Had all kinds of crazy stuff going on there. Celebrity boxing. Remember when like Michael Lohan knocked out Screech with a big right hand with a boxing glove that was the size of like a big screen TV? Are you thinking this is going to be somewhat of a farce when you see the size of those boxing gloves? I guess that they had different versions of celebrity boxing, but there was one guy whose name escapes me, who was like the Don King of celebrity boxing.
Yeah.
And he was also, I think, a bail bondsman and a loan shark.
I was gonna say he's a little hit or miss. We love Frankie, but
This wasn't Frankie. This was
exactly.
this boxing guy, who I've had contact with since those days. For some reason, there was something that popped up about celebrity boxing, and whether or not I wanted to get involved in some kind of announcing capacity. I said, no, I'll call anything at this time,
I
right?
was gonna say, are you gonna say no?
Yeah.
It's not you.
You got a couple of worms you want to race across the patio there? Call me Tom Durkin. An exhibiting class. Whatever. Any job will be a good job. All right. We're going to take time out, and I'll be back in a moment. Ian Eagle is going to join us at 9 o'clock, so we'll stay on the air for a while longer here today, and always good. And, of course, Ian Eagle, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't do this by design. You know that. He's a very humble guy.
It was very natural, so it leads you to believe that he had worked something pregame. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
As much as you go after Michaels, it did feel like, not that he practiced it because he's Ian, but that he had worked. But I'm not gonna make. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like that's his
Very
job.
clever. No, do you think what was he paying off a bet? What was he?
No, he's not that guy. He's not like Bo.
Because there are announcers now, and you'll see this. It's even happened here locally, where local radio station with Red Deer Randy Moeller,
Moeller was great at it.
where people, I think it was Dan Lebitard on his show, would propose, "Hey, can you work this into the game tonight?" When he was doing the games on the radio on 790, and sure enough, he would work them in.
Yep.
And and we've seen this other challenge. We've seen this in other places where they were saying, "Hey, here are the calls that so and so worked in for us." What do you think? I think Don Bailey Jr. Does that also during the Hurricane games.
Don Bailey Jr. definitely, I think, from what I've heard, does it. Ian doesn't, because we've talked to him about doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I would be reluctant to text a guy while he was doing a national television broadcast as soon to be the number one team on CBS for football. Which look at the dough that's involved in this thing, right? This isn't a guy that's hurting, or needs to, drum up publicity for himself, call attention to his career. Yeah, but I don't. How natural could that have been?
I think he worked something out in his head, but I don't know if he had expected to. Like, I don't think it was Michael. I agree with you. I think Michael literally wrote down, "I'm saying this exact thing, no matter what the fuck happens." Like,
in Michael's defense, and I know that I've been proliferating that theory for a long period of time, but you couldn't have anticipated. Maybe he thought to himself, before the game, "Hey, look, on the outside chance that the USA actually wins this thing or is in a position to win, what do I have ready for, the big proclamation?" He started that whole trend too, I think, Michaels, with that call. And then everybody had to have a signature thing, which, you could tell when guys were forcing it. Joe Angel did that. I don't know if you remember, he was really struggling to come up with one. And I like Joe Angel as a person and as an announcer. I thought he was very clever.
That was great, yeah.
But then he started going, and a 5-year-old child has become king. I mean, I've been struggling sometimes to try and figure out what was it I was talking about and how do I bring this all together. But he really seemed to be staggering to come up with a "Do you believe in miracles?" quote, no? I believe that was the case there. So I'll give the guy credit if he wrote something down beforehand. You can't anticipate what's going to happen though.
Well, you can sort of presume Kelsey's going to score a touchdown.
That was. He might have had money on that. I don't know.
So I wouldn't look if he came up with it naturally. That's great. If he had worked out something ahead of time, I don't have a problem. Ian's very prepared. We've talked to him. He prepares like a madman. So
yeah.
I can't be mad at him if he has something cooked up because
was that on the flip card there that he had?
But you have to ask.
Where he said, "Here's what they do: 29% of the time they run the ball on 1st and 10." And then it also says, "What was the name of the song again?"
Blank space.
Blank space. Or he has like a little Taylor Swift CD sitting there. We'll get to the bottom of that with Ian Eagle. I mean, the guy will come clean. You know that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He will come clean, so we'll get into that. So some big stuff to be established right here on the program. We'll break some news possibly. As was he on Good Morning America?
I don't know.
I believe they referenced it.
Well, I was gonna say it went viral, so I'm sure. Like I literally just typed in Ian Eagle and it popped up on YouTube, so I'm sure that it became a big thing and they've used it everywhere.
All right, we'll see. All right, so stick with us, and then beginning Monday, Lubie, we're going to do 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Till about 9:45 every day, 8 till 9:45. New time for the show. So you people that were tuning in at 7 o'clock, we certainly applaud you and the fact that you've been so loyal to us here over the years. But that's it, man. Enough getting up at that hour.
It's just there's no reason.
It actually kind of condenses the other things we're doing all together a little bit too.
I was going to say I thought you wanted the gap because I know you'll take a nap. I actually.
It's just as easier to get that hour of sleep beforehand. That would really,
Well, it's two things together, which makes more sense.
Well, plus, I mean, there's a big differential when you start, condensing things down. It's like a horse turning back in distance, and even on something as simple as the walk of life, right? There are times just because of timing, that once in a while I'll have to trim down to 3 miles, and the turning back in distance is just unbelievable, right? We were doing 4 hours of this stuff. Then all of a sudden you're doing 2. It seems like you don't even have time to say your name.
Yep.
But, I mean, getting up an hour later is just an extreme advantage in terms of overall well-being because you don't feel pressured now. I wake up a couple of times in the middle of the night. I was having a dream for some reason that I was on my hands and knees in front of the Big O begging for a job.
Oh, jeez.
I wonder what the significance of that was.
No.
How's that no filter thing going? Are we doing anything on that?
We're doing okay, actually.
All right, good.
Maybe not as good as Big O.
Big O, and he was like really like a Big O. I mean, he was like in this dream, he was like 5 times the size that he is, which he's already like kind of a big guy. And he was kind of indifferent to me in this dream. Like I had fucked him over before or something.
Which I don't think we have. I think we've.
Oh, I like everybody in this racket. Look, anybody that gives us a shot, you kind of, you're sort of, brothers in arms, are you not?
100%.
On the talent side of the business, for sure. And you know what? And everybody should give it a shot, right? I've had many people tell me, hey, the greatest thing about your life was that was what you wanted to do, since you were like a little kid, right? My brother says that. My brother, far more successful than I could ever imagine being in terms of financial wherewithal, and still says, hey, that was the best thing about it, man. And I would have to say that's true, Libby. That's why you have to stick to it. And once you get going at 8 o'clock, you'll see, with that extra hour of sleep, your mind will be so razor sharp that you will be inspired to, launch yourself into bigger and better things as time goes on there. Which we're hoping, Look, is there a platform that if they said, hey, you guys want to do something?
We're on like 5 platforms right now. We've yet to say no, and I've told 3 other people we're in.
As soon as you get that going,
100%.
make sure you don't forget about me now.
So if the Big O is calling, hey Big O,
He goes done well with this stuff, so I
Do a
give him all the
segment.
credit. Maybe that's why he was in the dream, and I was, was there some symbolic significance? There always is, right, with dreams. All right, we're going to come back with more. Ian Eagle's going to join us. So the football games last night, kind of boring.
Yeah.
Saints 2-0. A lot of Saints fans around the country, it seems. Everybody loves New Orleans. Who doesn't like New Orleans? Anybody?
No idea. I literally, we were with a bunch of people.
It's kind of a scummy city with its history and everything.
I'll
But
tell you right now, we were with a couple from Toronto, and they travel the world, and they're like, yeah, we're leaving North America till we're older. Where else is there really to go? And I'm like, you should try New Orleans, because they'd been to Chicago and New York. I'm like,
Yeah.
first place that came up to me, because I think good food and fun, New Orleans. And they were like, shit, that is the one place we want to go. So no,
Yeah.
New Orleans is right up there. There's nothing like it. It's such a great time.
It's a good time, yeah. I mean, it's good for a couple of days of wandering around the city there. Once you've seen, the square and, you thought about maybe going on that jazz, steamboat or whatever that thing is. There are not a zillion things to do there, but it's just a good town to walk around in.
Yep. Go for a
Yeah.
weekend. It's a great goal for a weekend city. So it's
Yeah.
perfect.
Very nice, and the food is top notch, and then the music scene is good enough. No matter what's going on there, there's always something going on.
Yep.
So it's good like that, and people are partying. They're there to have a good time. Very friendly too. I mean, as a tourist city, the people that are in the hospitality side of things are very, very welcoming. No matter what, you walk into any grungy looking place in New Orleans, it's like, hey, come on in, have a drink, sit down. They don't give you a look like you might get. Doesn't that suck, right? When you walk into a place, you're the only people in there, right? Because the band is playing and there's nobody in there, and they give you a look like you can't come in here.
It's like,
Like there's a drug transaction going on or something. No, how about the daycare center that was a fentanyl lab? What the hell? You see that in New York? Oh my God, what a tragic story.
oh God.
Such ugliness going on in the world. All right, so 8:00 Monday, and we'll the rest of the week, Lubie, you're going to carry on things on
Yeah.
Thursday and Friday. Okay, good.
We
'Cause
gotta do a little trivia challenge action. If Gurgles is in, I'm
I
down.
think Gurgles is in. Yes,
And then Friday we have to have our degeneracy. I mean,
people
Where's-
want some plays, even though there's some burial picks. Wow, was the professor okay? He loved Tennessee in that Gator game,
see where he went with
and
the
that was ugly from the start.
Gators that 1 week because it was a smart play and he went against his heart.
Yeah.
I feel like that was him going with his heart. Tennessee hadn't looked dominant so far. Like this Milton is not Hendon Hooker. Like this is not a reclamation project that's going to win out for Heupel. So
Yeah.
I would have thought that Tennessee would have won that game because the Gators did look dreadful against Utah, but I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have put money on it because I don't know what Tennessee is, and obviously they're not good.
No, well, Josh Heupel, and what the hell was he doing calling a timeout with 7 seconds to go in that game? That was a disgrace, wasn't it?
Being a douche. He was being a douche, which is stupid.
7 seconds ago. What good could possibly come of this? The team's going to take a knee, and you're calling a timeout? What kind of asshole would make a move like that? That was very Saban-esque. Is this guy crazy?
It's Saban/Gator-esque. It feels very Gator. So, but you don't have to be them. Let the Gators be the Gators. You don't have to do that.
Gators were fine. I mean, they were, being very classy. Just taking a knee, and they were going to get off the field there with the victory. And, Heupel's calling timeouts. I think he called 2 of them in the last half a minute when all they had to do was, let the clock run out. They weren't going to win the game.
The game was over.
It was beyond over. It was, a disgrace pretty much from Tennessee's standpoint. So, yeah, I mean, and this week, Lubie, wow, what a test you have coming up.
Everyone does.
Your
This-
Florida State Seminoles going against Clemson.
As sucky as the last 2 weeks have been, this week's card is fucking ridiculous. I think there's like that game's not a top 25 matchup, but it feels like one. I think there's literally 5 or 6 top 25 matchups.
Yeah,
Or if they're not, there's 8 games that are really, really prime time.
Is Alabama playing somebody, or they got Little Sisters of the Poor lined up?
I think Georgia finally plays someone.
Ole Miss, which, wow, I mean, With the offensive ineptitude of Alabama so far this year, Ole Miss, did they become a threat
Yes. Oh yeah. And that one, that I don't know about overall, but in that game, I mean,
in that game? Yes.
Ohio State plays. Do they play Penn State?
Notre Dame, I think.
Ohio State plays Notre Dame. Penn State, I know, has a big game. There's like this week's action is fucking ridiculous. Like Colorado finally plays someone real. They play Oregon. Like this week's action should be a lot of fun. And then Florida State, Clemson. I don't know what to do with that game because Clemson hasn't been great, but it's at Clemson, so you can't ever put anything past them. Or I would.
You believe that guy stopped me in the street and wanted to blow the chauffeur for me? Have you ever had anybody,
Never.
I've been around 72 plus years, and I've never in my life, even, I traveled through some very heavily Hasidic Jewish neighborhoods when I was living in New York. I mean, Williamsburg, New York, was, that was pretty much the entire demographic there. And, we used to go there on our way to Staten Island. There was like a day camp that we went to for a couple of years, my brother and me. And so it was great because you sort of, I mean, it was like going to the country. You couldn't believe how wonderful this was. And you were back, you took the ferry boat, got a pretzel on there, a hot dog. It was absolutely fantastic as a kid. So we took the bus to like Williamsburg for some reason. It was the Williamsburg YMCA. I was running the daycare or the day camp. And, I mean, I never, even in that period of time, I never had a guy stop me on the street and say, "You know what, son? Would you like me to blow the chauffeur for you?" So what was he going to do? He was going to whip out like how small of a chauffeur could you have? Is there like a harmonica size or something?
If it was Hasidim, they have the coats, so you could probably, I don't know what they could put in those fucking things.
I was expecting a guy to whip out this giant fucking conch shell, literally, like I was at that David Tua fight. Anyway, I mean, it's not like, yeah, I mean, it's not like Herb Alpert's going to be, playing the horn for you. What could you have expected the guy to do? Would you have waited around for him to do it? I quickly bluffed my way out of there. I mean, I wasn't interested in stopping anyway because I was on the final, few yards of my walk of life there. Very happy to be finishing up. I already had visions. I could taste the Coors Light in the frozen mug, Lubie. And this guy stopped me on the street to blow the chauffeur. I don't know. Would you have stopped or, let him do it? What would you have done? As a good Jew, did I commit some kind of blasphemous sin?
I would have, you know me, I'm Mr. Bitter. On a walk, I want to be left alone. But I wish you had said yes.
What was that going to do for me? I should have stayed. What the hell was I thinking?
I didn't want to see just for the story purpose. It's utterly ridiculous and annoying that he did it. And I don't
know what? You should have. You should have kept them going until finally some people were going by and going, "Can you believe this guy?"
That's what I'm saying, just to see if he would have done it.
My bitterness, I've decided to just let completely go because that deprived me of what could have been a brilliant moment of comedy.
Yes.
Because I just didn't feel like dealing with it like a schmuck in the streets. And I would have been perfectly willing if he had asked me to explain like how to get to, all the restaurants Lauderdale by the Sea. I would have told him, "Hey, turn around."
I was gonna say you actually stopped. Like I wouldn't have even stopped. I would have just.
I'm always willing to help guys directions or whatever. I don't mind doing that at all. I feel good about it. I feel like I'm doing a good deed, a mitzvah. All right. What if I had just asked to borrow one of the shirts they had buttoned up to the chin there and said, "Why don't I just run with you? I don't even know where there's a temple around here. There is none. There's a church like right next door, giant church, man." But I haven't seen a temple here anywhere. Crazy. Where were these people coming from? Where were they going? They were nomads.
And it was a Sunday too. You said
Sunday, yeah. It wasn't Rosh Hashanah on Saturday.
Oh, the Rosh Hashanah ended Sunday night, so it must have been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's getting.
Well, he would. I mean, it was probably a mistake not to, not to go ahead and let him do this. I'm really regretting this now. I hope I run into this cat again. If I do, I'm going to say, "Hey, what? Can you just break out the chauffeur here?"
Well, maybe Yom Kippur. Maybe go that Monday. Go walk around because they break the fast.
I'm going to wait outside. I'm going to set up a beach chair on the sidewalk on A1A.
That Monday night, like around like 7-ish.
If you want to see me, I'll be across the street from the Sea Watch restaurant. A1A, just north of Commercial, and I'm going to be sitting there until this guy blows by, and I'm going to beg him to blow the chauffeur for me. Then what? Out of the bushes comes a guy in a little black hat and suit. All right, that's enough of that. All right, coming back with more. Ian Eagle going to join us in about 10 minutes here on the program. We're just kind of treading water here until that happens. Still, though, I should ask Ian about that, no?
I was going to say,
what would he have done? Yeah, that'll be how we end things up.
I know you're asking.
Advice.
I'm like, you're definitely asking him how he came up with the thing, and you're definitely going to throw in an Al Michaels reference.
Yeah.
And you're definitely going to bring up the chauffeur at some point. Like, I know. I've already reconciled that.
It's reality is better. It's much better in terms of entertainment than any kind of fiction you could come up with. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that
The time.
all right, it's 8:48. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant. And you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine foods served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
You can't fake caring. Women can sense this immediately. You don't really care. You didn't really want to do any of this.
We now return to the Defo Show.
Funny you should bring that philosophical tidbit up here on the program, because I had one of those memories pop up on Facebook, and many of them are bitter. I don't know. If your memories on social media are mostly bitter, is that a sign that maybe you should have done things that gone about your business a little bit differently? But and the post was, I just put it back up. I normally don't, but I just put it back up because it was when she says it doesn't matter, it matters.
Oh, yeah.
No, I guess when a woman says it doesn't matter, it matters.
Yeah, what's wrong? Nothing. Oh, okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a unanimous decision. I mean, it matters. It's a rumble in the jungle. I mean, if you ignore the fact that, whoever it is that's talking to you says it doesn't matter. That's why it's so far-fetched to think that Amy Mickelson was responsible for Phil stopping gambling, unless she threatened him with some kind of weapon that could have terminated his life. No? Because no woman has ever been influential in that way, in a positive fashion, except to appeal to the darkest, most degenerate part of your soul, where she's saying, "You gambled. We can't even pay the electric bill," and you're thinking, "So how the hell do we get out of this?"
Gambling. You're gonna gamble again.
Knicks minus 6.5. Yeah, Lou, I said the Knicks. So Defo, you haven't in the game in like 3 weeks. Yeah, well, this is my 5-star game of the century right here. Unbelievable. A lot of pushes. I think were the Steelers underdogs at home. Yeah, they were both home dogs, I think, going last night. So you got a push on one, and you got the Steelers winning as a home dog outright in their game against the Browns. The Browns were completely overrated in this game, and I think they will be waiting all year for Deshaun Watson to come around. And I mean, he was at one time, in the same category as any of that type of quarterback that runs and throws on a run and creates plays. I don't know that he was Mahomes, but he was probably like
They were calling
right
him
there
top
with
5
any of the others.
I never put him top 5. I called him top 10 because he got hurt that one year, so I wasn't sure if he would stay healthy. But he was as good as any quarterback in the league on any given. I mean, he just was. Like, he was legit. He didn't have to run. He could stay in the pocket. He could pick you apart. His last year where he was healthy, he had no help, and he had as good a statistical season as any quarterback in the league. Like, the guy was legit, but then he didn't play for like 2+ years. And we've seen him be rusty now into a second year.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, is he playing any better than Baker Mayfield is in Tampa at this stage? The guy that they couldn't wait to get rid of, so they could bring this whole situation about. I have a question for Jim Sarney. What is the PWHA? Is that a pickleball league? Women's pickleball? Sarney wants us to discuss the first round draft pick. No, the entire first round of the draft. Do you have your draft analysis board out there? Holy Mel Kiper.
I do.
Now what are we talking about? What is the PWHA? I can't even. I normally can decipher these things fairly quickly, or at least come up with an idea. I would have no idea. Professional Women's Harness Racing Association,
Hockey Association. Maybe it's a women's hockey. I don't
could
know.
be women's hockey. Yeah, I don't know, Jim. You got us stumped.
Jesus.
Couple of other things. Remember the Blunderdome? Probably the worst stadium idea ever conceived. And that's in St. Petersburg. The people of St. Petersburg, you talk about fleecing of municipalities.
Yep.
When Mike Mayo was on the city desk, he no doubt would have written volumes of copy about this, and probably did, right? Didn't he get in that big beef? That was his thing with Doug Sifu and the Florida Panthers. I think Izinga even wanted to beat the shit out of him after he correctly pointed out that the $5 million that the Panthers so desperately needed for what I think is like the crummiest scoreboard in any sporting arena, is it not? Can you read that?
It's not like big and impressive. It's like a regular scoreboard.
And the key numbers are like, you're asking yourself, what was the money spent for? But I think like Mayo found out through investigative reporting, which he was very good at on this sort of thing. I mean, if he could talk about digging up dirt, Mayo could do it, right? That thing with Freddie Couples, where he looked up the conditions of his divorce and then asks him in an interview or writes it in a column. Well, were you really beating the living daylights out of her? No, it wasn't quite that extreme, but Freddie took exception with it, right? But he digs up this dirt that this money was like going to deprive the hungry children of food.
Yes.
And they use it for a scoreboard. It was something along those lines. I don't know if it was, as hideous as that. But, and they genuinely took exception to it. But what a waste of money, huh? That is the worst scoreboard that I've seen in any sport. That being said, the worst stadium by many people's, a long margin in terms of consensus of many people's opinion, in all of sport might be the Blunderdome, which was built on a whim and a promise. Was it the Cleveland Indians that were going to move to Tampa, Lubie? Didn't they end up being responsible for a stiff job on 2 stadiums? The city of Homestead built the Cleveland Indians a stadium. And I believe, were they not saying they were going to move to Tampa, and so they built the stadium to help lure them there? Or was it that they were going to get an expansion team? It was one or the other. I want to think that a major league team was going to relocate to Tampa based on whether or not they had a stadium. So they built this stadium in advance of actually having the final approval, and the team ultimately didn't do anything. And then was it the White Sox also that were going to move there?
I didn't remember. I don't know any of this. I just know that they've always bitched that the stadium was in St. Petersburg. So, of course, the new stadium is going to be in St. Petersburg.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Sarney was saying yesterday was they got money for a stadium, but it's still fucking St. Petersburg. I'm like, isn't that the whole gripe? Is that it's in St. Petersburg? Isn't that what everyone bitches about? The Tampa, St. Pete area is not that close to each other. They're like 30 to 40 minutes away.
Yeah, you got to go over that Skyway Bridge, which is one of the few bridges. I would almost rather travel over the bridge over River Kwai. No, I mean, that thing is spooky, isn't it? When you're going straight up in the air there and you're thinking, what the hell? I mean, that's real old school stuff they got going there with that Skyway Bridge.
Yep.
Certain bridges, right? Even the Golden Gate, I don't feel particularly comfortable. You're wondering, what the hell? When did they build this? Alcatraz is ready to just melt away into the ocean there.
Exactly.
No?
Golden Gate's fine. It's just long and big.
It's a little weird. That Bay Area bridge that goes to Oakland, that's a weird one, huh?
That one's chintz. Yeah, that one's a little.
And it has like a second deck.
Yep.
So and was that a cinder block that just came down on the windshield? It's crazy, right? But that Skyway Bridge, I mean, that's a rough one. So you have to still travel over that. Anyway, it's never worked there in terms of the fans. As good of an organization as Tampa Bay has been as a competitive organization on the field, they have just been a total disaster when it comes to attendance in that stadium. So we'll see if that works, or is it just going to be a continuation of the same, pretty much like we had here with the Marlins so far. Where okay, they got a little bit of a boost this year. There's some more people in the stands. It's nice to see, but in general, you would have to say since they built this new stadium, it's been a disaster. At least there's potential to maybe have it work out later on down the road. All right, Ian Eagle's going to join us in just a couple of minutes, so we'll come back with that. Joining us by telephone. Stick around. It should be a lot of fun. We'll get to the bottom of what pop culture is ablaze with right now. Viral, everything. We'll have Ian with us in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:59.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Shotgun. Murray out of the pocket. 7 seconds. 6 seconds. Murray leaves it downfield. DeAndre Hopkins. Miraculous. It's Murray magic. Four defenders in the area, and DeAndre Hopkins is the man who comes away with it.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. A little extension here of the program because it's always a pleasure. We're always humbled by the fact that this man would even consider coming on our schmanky little podcast here, the Defo Show with Mike Lubie Lubitz.
He's making national headlines. He's leading Good Morning America, CNN, Sports Center, everything known to man, the Video Music Awards.
He told Olbermann, hey, listen, you're finished, Keith. And, you're on the wrong side of things. And, Oprah's probably, hanging on right now saying, hey, when you get finished with these guys, could I get a minute? And we've contended for years, Lubie, as you're well aware of. I'm not sure that Iron Eagle is, but that Al Michaels had "Do You Believe in Miracles" written on his cuff when the USA, in improbable, almost impossible, unbelievable fashion, upset the Russians at the Winter Olympic Games. And it would have been great, if he had ad-libbed the thing. But we welcome Iron Eagle to the program, and that blank space thing, Iron, that has blown up to proportions. How familiar were you with Taylor Swift songs, or did that just pop into your head arbitrarily on the spot?
Yeah, hold on one second. Hey, Dale. I'm gonna have to talk to you. No, I got Defo and Lubie.
Yeah. Good morning, America. You're telling Strahan, hey, listen, I don't have time for you today. It's great.
Hey, sorry guys, just a lot going on here. Trying to manage it all and juggle it. Well,
How great is this?
No, George Stephanopoulos. No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. No, I'll do that. I like them. Nice guy. Yeah, guys. Yeah, I'm a Swiftie. It's pretty simple.
Did you? Was this on a bet? I mean, how did this come about? Because
No. Far from it.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had propositions before. Saying, "Hey, can you work my son Stewie's name in? He's having his bar mitzvah this week somehow to the broadcast. On a dunk."
Really, I'm not beneath that. I'll take requests. Casey Kasem made a tremendous career for himself doing just that. No, yes. I do pay attention to pop culture. I do have an interest in things outside of football. So well aware of what the scuttlebutt was throughout the week with Kelsey and with Taylor Swift. I am a Taylor Swift fan. She's amazing. I am blown away by her work ethic and just how talented she is, from all the songs that she's written to her performances. So no, this isn't out of left field. I was certainly in the mindset that if something were to break a certain way, there might be an opportunity. But the thing that I've figured out through the years after doing this for so long, if you try to shoehorn things in, if you try to force things in, if by hook or by crook you're going to get something in, it usually doesn't work. So you do have to allow it to happen fairly naturally and organically. And if something does work in the moment, go with it. Go for it. That is something that I have determined through the years doing this job of, hey, have some fun. It's okay to laugh and have some levity. We're talking about sports here, and it shouldn't be the end of the world.
All right. Did you ever ask Michaels about that? Did he have that written down somewhere?
I didn't ask. I did see him in Philly last week.
Yeah.
So it's
okay.
a possibility, but
next time, just see if you'll indulge, a question from Defo and Lubie.
You want to get him on?
But he sort of started a trend, and we've seen different guys struggle with it. Like you said, I mean, I'm 100% with you on the idea that you can't necessarily force something in there. Because, even a great Joe Angel, when he was trying to describe the moment and put into his perspective the Marlins 97 World's Championship, was struggling to have like an Al Michaels moment. And he ended up staggering around and, had no idea if you were, listening to the baseball game or Norm Crosby as he was trying to figure out a way to apply words that would be of enough hyperbole to, say that, in essence, this is spectacular.
Yeah, Defo, I know you were a huge Dr. Irwin Corey fan.
Yes. We play his clips on the show here.
Fantastic. Yeah. Not a double thought. Take you this way, take you that way. But he had it rolling there for a little bit. Eventually, I think people are like, okay, what else you got?
Yeah. No, he was good. All right. Now, you're doing that Kansas City Chiefs game. And, that was a test there. Some people would, say if they were promoting the ball game, that it could be a potential AFC championship matchup. Mm-hmm. Did you see it as that going in? And where are we at? I mean, is there anything definitive that we can say 2 weeks into this NFL season about, any team in particular, except that Arizona, unfortunately, I was screaming money line, and they managed to continue to have their season tanking goals accomplished by losing that game to the Giants. But anything definitive that you see so far, Iron Eagle, that catches your eye?
Well, I think a lot of us went into this season thinking the AFC was absolutely stacked. And now 2 weeks in, we're beginning to question where some of these teams fit in. If you go through divisions, Kansas City doesn't quite have the same mystique it once had. They're still really good. They're just leaning on unproven talent. But odds are with Mahomes there, they're going to get it together. Defensively, I think they can be competitive, and Chris Jones being back makes a big difference. But the Chargers, 0-2. The Raiders don't look like world beaters. The Broncos, 0-2. You look at the South, Jacksonville is 1-1. They're definitely the best team in the division. Is there a huge drop-off to Tennessee? Titans play really hard, so maybe it'll be competitive for a while. Indianapolis, not close. Houston, not close. Baltimore, good team, dealing with a bunch of injuries. Cleveland, looked great week 1. Week 2, that's a loss to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looked terrible week 1. They got out a win in week 2. Cincinnati, 0-2. They have not looked anything like the team that we saw last year. And then AFC East, Aaron Rodgers, done. Jets, 1-1. Patriots haven't won a game. Buffalo didn't look like the Super Bowl caliber squad that we've been talking about the last few years, that eventually they'll get over the top. They still could get their act together. And then the Miami Dolphins. They've looked like the most prolific offense, the most fun, the most electric of the teams. Their speed is just so obvious and palpable. And I think they've been the talk of the AFC because they're the team that has figured it out. They've come up big in clutch moments, and 2 weeks in, to me, they've been the most fun team to watch.
Have you been in any production meetings with Mike McDaniel yet doing the Dolphin game? It's like Nietzsche wearing cleats, it seems, when he speaks about the game. Does he come with an interpreter, or do you speak McDaniel?
Yeah, do you speak McDaniel?
I definitely speak McDaniel. I dig it. I like the vibe. I like that it's a little different. I have no problem with coaches that have come through the ranks that are not cookie cutter. It's not the same old thing. It's not the same answers. We got to stop the run. We got to block them up front. We got to control the clock. He looks at it from a different angle. And I think right now it's working. His bedside manner is unique, and the players seem to respond to it. His creativity and innovative touch has been seen already. And the stuff that he had in store for the Chargers week 1 after an entire offseason to think about it, that was impressive. So to me, I'd like to see more of this, but you have to win. This is not going to become the norm until unique personalities show that they can win doing it a different way. But we met with them last year in the midst of a little bit of a struggle. So I think at that point, it was late in the season. I don't think we got him at his absolute best. He was exhausted. The team was searching for answers at that point, but he still was a lovely guy to talk to. He's got just a very likable comportment.
Well, what's interesting, especially when it comes to coaches, whether they're fun or they're stoic, a lot of the time, success and failure is pretty much who's willing to be flexible. Like Brandon Staley, to this point, look, we like the guy that's the gunslinger as a player and a coach, and it's what got Mike McDaniel in trouble out last year. Sometimes you got to just be conservative. Sometimes when you're up 3 and you're at the 10-yard line and you've ran it 3 times and you can't get a touchdown, you kick the field goal, go up 6. But let your defense close the game out. Sometimes you just got to do the conservative call because it just makes the most sense. And Mike McDaniel, a lot of the time last year, was much like that, where he would, I'm going to go for it on 4th down. It's like, dude, you're up 7. A field goal gives you a 10-point lead. What are you doing? Or he would, the run is working, but I want to pass it because I have to prove that Tua can pass it. And it's like, no, man, the run's working. And so far, at least through 2 games, Mike McDaniel is sort of, at least to me, shown that he's willing to learn from last year, where game 1 was an outright just throwing the ball over the place, both teams, and whoever had the ball last, hopefully they win the game. Game 2, Bill Belichick took the pass away, but the running lanes were open, and he just kept running it and running it. And to me, we've seen that throughout the history of sports, is the coaches that are willing to learn and be a little bit more fluid are the ones that succeed. And at least so far, it feels like maybe Mike McDaniel's is learning that himself.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair point, and it's one that I agree with and believe in. And I think you evolved as a coach as well. You know, we all have different backstories and what got us to where we are in life. And for Mike McDaniel, taking chances and going against the grain got him to one of the most prestigious positions in all of sports, being the head coach of an NFL team. So your instincts and your gut have told you to do one thing through the years, and it's worked for you. And then you become the head coach, and no longer are you in the background. Some of those decisions that might be made over a headset as an offensive coordinator, or if you're trying to chip in as part of the staff and throw an idea out there during the week that works on a Sunday, and that's duly noted by the head coach. When you're the head coach, it's on you. You have to deal with the questions after the game. You have to deal with the results and look your team in the eye and know that you did something to help them or did something to hurt them. That's a whole new ball of wax. And you learn and you figure it out and you problem solve. Andy Reid, to me, is maybe the best example of that. In Philadelphia, Andy had a lot of success, but couldn't get over the hump, couldn't win the big one. So he ends up leaving the Eagles because they just needed something new, something different. It felt played out. Goes to Kansas City, gets Alex Smith. I think he knew there was a ceiling there, but he was successful with Alex Smith. They made the playoffs time and time again. And then it's Patrick Mahomes who steps in and turns out to be a worldly talent, out of this world talent. And Andy, who is a good problem solver and is good at adjustments and having his finger on the pulse and figuring things out, has done just that to the tune of 2 Super Bowls and a chance to win a whole lot more because he's got one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen come down the pike. So I just think a lot of this is snap judgments by media members like us that have to get on the air the next day and maybe not give it all that much thought, have a quick reaction to things because that's what people want. And it's not built in one day. So I would give Mike McDaniel the benefit of the doubt. I think he's a really smart guy, and I think he's the type of personality that is just eventually going to figure it out. So you're right. There has been progress in that department.
Ian Eagle, guested with us here at the show. It's always great to have him on, especially since he's so overwhelmingly in the spotlight. But by the way, Lubie wants to be addressed as his new wrestling name, Mr. Morocco, after he landed in Morocco the night of the earthquake. And he was shaken, not stirred, which was fortunate, that this happened in some remote region of the mountains, although many people were impacted by it. All right, a couple of quick coaching questions, just impressions here, because I did put in a prop bet on FanDuel that Dan Campbell will eat a live animal to inspire his team at some point during the season, before a game. That's like 6-1. So I don't know if you think that that's a possibility. And then, we were looking at Belichick in his Dolphin game, and it seems like, if you saw before and after pictures of like Obama when he became president and then after, and he comes out, looking like, he had been locked away with Papillon for like 5 years and, just deteriorated completely physically. He comes in, he's shooting baskets with Larry Bird. He's making moves on Magic, and he leaves like an old decrepit shell of himself. Is that happening? Did you think that Belichick is hearing the voice of Shula from the grave saying, "You'll never do it with this guy, Bill. You'll never do it with this guy. You can stay in the game until you're 90. You're never going to beat me." Is that the sole motivational factor for Belichick being in the game there? Just to, sort of, in reference to the movie title, spit on Shula's grave?
I definitely see frustration. There's no doubt. Things that normally work for New England because they're well schooled, well coached, they've done it, they've practiced it, they've executed it. That hasn't been the case, as we know, not just in the first 2 weeks, but different points of the last couple of seasons without Tom Brady. You make a decision in the draft that this is your guy at quarterback, and obviously you're going to do everything in your power to try to make him successful. And the fact that they have not been consistently successful is, I'm sure, very humbling for Bill, for Robert Kraft, for that fan base. They did a whole lot of winning for a long time, and they bullied everybody in that division for a long, long time. I think Bill still loves the game, still loves everything that goes into putting in a game plan and forming a team and building camaraderie and all of that. But I would tend to agree that this is not going according to plan. And I don't know what the motivation is. I know you're going to have jokes about it. I'm sure there is probably part of them that wants to do this long enough that officially that there are no stats that would prove otherwise. He would go down as the greatest head coach in football history. This is a guy that truly appreciates football history. And yeah, there was some personal stuff there between Bill and Don. So if there's a hidden agenda that comes into play, he wouldn't be the first. And that happens all the time. And it certainly happens in sports. That goes without saying.
No, it's crazy. I mean, and the way that game ended, I give him credit for keeping this team in these games against Philadelphia and the Dolphins. They were in there with a shot, and I thought I saw a snowplow come out on the field there, during that final play. I mean, they threw everything at him, and still, ended up coming up a foot short. All right, one final thing, if you don't mind. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it happened to me the other day. I'm doing my walk of life, and I'm just about, maybe 100 yards from the finish line here. After going a few miles and schwitzing, it's absolutely, dreadfully hot out. And some like Hasidic Jews are walking the other way. And I don't even know if there's a temple around here where I live. I don't know of one. And the guy stops me on the street and asks me if he could blow the shofar for me. Has that ever happened to you? I mean, I went to the Williamsburg YMCA for day camp when I was a kid in the 50s in Brooklyn. We went over there, and so I've been surrounded, by very Orthodox, religious Jewish people. I have never in my lifetime, even walking the streets of New York all those years, had somebody stop me and offer to blow the shofar. Has it ever happened to you, Iron Eagle, in your travels around New York City? Maybe at a Nets game.
Said yes.
Happened to me, 1985. Yeah, never forget it.
What'd the guy do? I mean,
did you let him?
I was 16. I was impressionable. I didn't know what to do. So.
Yeah, I'm sad now. I blew the guy off because I was just, I was embittered by the fact that I had to walk all these miles just so I could drink a beer.
You didn't feel like you were going to present well in that moment, considering the physical toll that you had just been through.
I'm annoyed with everybody when I'm exercise. I hate everybody. Yeah,
I don't
very
have
grumpy.
for your shofar.
Go blow this. I mean, I felt terrible saying something like that. All right, well, it's happened to you, and congratulations. How are you feeling about all of this? Not that you weren't obviously well known. I mean, as one of the greats in broadcasting, but I mean, how has this attention affected you or impacted you at all?
Yeah. Wait, hold up.
Has Scorsese called? I mean, are there movie roles? Well, what's?
Yeah, it's just a lot happening.
We're going to see you in Yellowstone. Now that it's on network TV. I go with a cowboy hat.
Kind of guy. I just go with the flow, guys. It's not going to change me at all.
Yeah,
I'm the same person that you've known all these years that's willing to talk about shofars on the air.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly and Mark blowing off Costner and saying, we got to get this Eagle Cat on,
Yeah.
He's got the line of the century. That's great, though. I mean, it's always good to come up with something that, it's Down Goes Frazier, man. That was fantastic. So great job by you, Ian. Was Davis aware of it, that you were going to pull this out, or?
No, I don't know if he was aware that I was going to pull it out. He did go see Taylor Swift this summer with his family, so
okay.
He was
So he got the
very
reference
much
too.
into it.
Nice.
Yeah, he got the reference. He's a good audience. He allows it to be clean. I think part of the reason why it worked so well is that it's just woven into the call.
Yep.
I don't stop to make a grandstand. It's just part of the call, and then you continue.
Yep.
And then people that get it, and people that don't, just enjoy the game and move on, or say, "Wait, what happened? What did I miss?"
Yeah. Yeah, it's a verbal Picasso, man. Yeah, it's fantastic. You don't know if it belongs in a museum or on the fridge, from some kid's finger painting.
Either way, I'll take either one at this stage.
Good stuff, Ian, as always, man. Thanks so much.
I really appreciate it.
We'll talk
very
soon.
humbling that you would blow off Oprah for us. Thanks so much for being with us. Ian Eagle, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that was fun. All right, so he had a notion that he was going to do it.
He was I don't know if he wrote it down or anything like that. He was just prepared to throw in some kind of a Taylor Swift reference.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's great.
No, that is beautiful. All right, that's going to do it for today. We'll do it again tomorrow. And then Lubie's going to have Thursday and Friday for you. And then Monday, don't forget, we're going to shift our start time to 8 o'clock. And we'll stick around till about 9:45 every day. 8 till 9:45. So everybody gets to sleep in. Beginning Monday with the Defo Show. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. That's always a lot of fun. And with Mayo on this new kick, it's how much of that pizza did he have afterwards?
None. He didn't eat any of it. It's really freaking weird. He had a little bit of the clams. Didn't use any bread, even though the butter garlic was utterly insane. He didn't use any of the bread. He had just a clam, and he ate his dolphin or his mahi-mahi. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, my God. I think you might be serious this time. You walked 4 miles? Holy shit. That's good. Look, everybody has to have an epiphany at some point. No, it's true. I mean, when without this walking every day, I'd be a dead man. So, as much as I don't always feel like it, I'm like, okay, man, this is what's keeping me going. All right, we'll see you later on. And thanks for joining us here. We'll join you again tomorrow and later on today with the Mayo Lunchbox as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:24.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.